Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to the season finale of the League Zero Formula Series Season 17 as brought to you on the Premier Sim Racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing and proudly presented by INCA Salsa. That's right, after 8 incredible rounds of rudimentary and rapid-fire racing action, we have made our way all the way to our season finale and we are here at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium to see exactly who will be our drivers and teams champions. And what better scene to set the finale, because as we make our way into this season finale, we are at a circuit that is absolutely born into the heart of motorsport. Located right deep within the Ardennes forest, what was once a circuit that saw drivers roar the way through the local villages and towns, albeit gradually narrowed down and brought down to a more formal racing circuit for the purposes of safety, whereas a circuit that's been the mainstay of most if not all international racing series as it has gradually evolved over time. Whether it be Formula 1, the World Endurance Championship, you name it, it's raced here, and as our drivers get ready to take it on their Super Formula SO23 machines, where it's a circuit packed full of variety, and therefore variety always brings out the very best in our drivers. Where it be hairpins, sweepers, chicanes, long straight, elevation changes, you name it, Spa's got it, and as our drivers get set to take it on, we're in Belgium, we're definitely crowning our champions. But add to that as well the fact this is our 200th Grand Prix event. Indeed, it is crazy to think we've hit a huge milestone, and indeed, what a way to time it, of course. 200 Grand Prix, and we complete 200 Grand Prix on a season finale, and that's why this is a round not to be missed. But where exactly are my manners? I forgot to introduce you to this broadcast, haven't I? We welcome you all to this post-round broadcast from Circuit Side, as you tune in tonight on YouTube at the one and only place you'll be able to catch all the racing action for this season of the League Zero Formula Series. And that is, of course, on youtube.com and search for Paul Walsh Productions or PWP. And make sure you subscribe if you want to stay up to date with all the latest broadcasts on this series as time does carry on forward. But as we carry on forward into tonight, the racing action itself, of course, carrying on what was 50, the 5th of March 2026. We're bringing it to you as if it were live this Friday, the 6th of March. And therefore, we do not know what is happening in the final practice session currently ongoing in the background, and the upcoming qualifying session, or most critically, our 2 races that are just around the corner. Speaking of which, in terms of our schedule for the day, times in Eastern Standard Time, that's EST, we Universal Quality Time -5, UTC -5. As we can see, in approximately 12 to 13 minutes' time, we'll make our way into our qualifying session, the last of our qualifying sessions this season. 15 minutes in duration, all drives out on the circuit looking to go for pole position, after which we'll make our way straight into the first of our 2 races at 9:30 this evening. That'll be for the first 6-lap sprint race, where that's going to be short, it's going to be sweet, but it means the points are going to be very quick to grab. And after that, we take a brief breather before returning at approximately 9:45 for what will be the gridding procedure of our final race of the season, the 20-lap feature race. Indeed, 2 races can settle it, but in fact, rather than wax lyrical about it, let's bring you up to speed with the championship so far and why this is a round not to be forgotten about when it comes to both the drivers and teams championships. Of course, in the commentary booth, all your racing action brought to you by myself. My name is Paul Walsh, and I'll be guiding you on this tour as we bring the season curtain down. So as we take a look back to our calendar then, we have made our way around the globe this season. Starting on the 8th of January, we began in Australia at the Phillip Island Circuit. There we got to see plenty of battling, but we also got to see what was some huge drama right from the start, with some of our leading drivers not quite having the happiest days in the office, particularly the DDK Racing team of Elliot Court and Elliot Rolls, but meanwhile Finley Fitzsimmons looked to be the quickest out there. That theme continued in round number 2, when we made our way to the Miami International Autodrome on the 15th of January, albeit we also got to see some brilliant driving from the likes of Jaden Calloway alongside Fitzsimmons, and also DDK Racing team picking themselves up, but we also got to see some dismay for the likes of Fabian Sanchez. And then in Brazil for round number 3 on the 22nd of January at the Autodrome Jose Carlos Pache, we got to see a showdown of titanic proportions between Fitzsimmons and his Squid Gang rivals. Indeed, what a brilliant set of battles they were. And on the 29th of January for round number 4, we made our way back to the US of A for the Michelin Raceway at Road Atlanta. And whilst we got to see Squid Gang Racing definitely have a happy day in the office for Adam Merchant, well, the biggest star of the show, of course, was in the feature race where Finley Fitzsimmons overcame adversity, falling all the way to the back of the field to make his way all the way through in the feature race to take victory. Indeed, what an incredible way to come through the field and make his best win of the season occur. In round number 5, we transitioned into the second half of the season now on the 5th of February, the start of the second month of 2026, and at the Nürburgring Grosser Preisstrecke, well, there was definitely a lot of drama there in the heavy braking zones and plenty of major incidents, but still, those who were able to make their way through picked up some valuable points. And then we made our way to the Italian Temple of Speed on the 12th of February for the Autodrome Nacional Monza. High speed, high thrills, high stakes action, and that then led into Spain for the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya in round number 7. On the 19th of February, it was elbows out between several drivers, but still there's also plenty to enjoy, but things were going backwards for many a team, particularly MSR Purple and also DDK Racing team, whereas things were going very much forward for Adam Merchant. And last time out at the Circuit of the Americas on the 26th of February, What exactly happened there? Well, we got to see some very interesting conditions in practice, qualifying, and race number one. It was clear skies. Although we say clear skies, really it was absolutely black skies by the end of the first race, given the fact the clouds came over very aggressively, but there was no rain. And what it suddenly meant was that in the first sessions of the day, well, in qualifying, it would be Adam Merchant who took pole position very late on by what is none other than 0.163 seconds over Finley Fitzsimmons, and Merchant would go on to lead every lap in the sprint race at the Circuit of the Americas. Meanwhile, for Finley Fitzsimmons, it was second place on the road, but a post-race time penalty due to a black flag for picking up too many instant points meant he was demoted all the way from second through to 13th, and suddenly all those points that were in his hand were taken away from him and given to somebody else. They were given to Elliot Court, the man who kept him under pressure late on in the race, so Elliot Court was promoted to second, and in the end, Antonio Bianchi made his way onto the podium, and it was a long-awaited return to the podium after taking a fourth place considerably behind after having his battles with Leo Del Mar fall into his favour. But then we went into the feature race at the Circuit of the Americas, and there we saw the rain start to fall lightly on the grid. And all our drivers had to decide, what was the right tyre to go with? Was it the slick or was it the wet tyre? And well, the slick tyre was the right choice, so long as you picked it for the first 20 of the 24 laps. And those who did, they were absolutely flying high. How as the rain intensified towards the very end, suddenly you had to go to the wets with only a couple of laps left. Adam Merchant was the one who got it absolutely spot on, and in the end opened up a huge gap of 40 seconds over the race distance and came into the pits on the penultimate lap to put the wets on to survive the final lap, making it one of his best drives of his career when he went all the way from 6th to first in the opening corner of the feature race. Finley Fitzsimmons, meanwhile, charged all the way from 13th to 4th on the open lap after starting on the slick tyre. However, he did find that by the end of lap number 5, he would be in second, and he could never quite catch up to Adam Merchant, but did pin the gap to 8 seconds. Yet, when the rain intensified suddenly, it all started to slip out of his hands, given the fact he did pick up a drive-through penalty for instant points on lap number 20, and when he did pit to switch to the wet tyres, it was absolute pandemonium, given the fact he was able to take second place in, as the man who was running second at the time, Elliot Rolls, well, he tried to survive on the slick tyre all the way to the very end, but a late spin on the final lap cost him the second place and gave it back to Finley Fitzsimmons. You could not have made it up. It absolutely was crazy how that race ended, and now we find ourselves here today. It is the 5th of March round. It is time for round number 9 of 9 at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium, and therefore it means that for all our drivers, it's time to see who can do the business best and who can write the check that says that they are the champions. But as we come into this round, of course, that's a recap of how things played out in round number 8 and as the season's gone on. But let's show you the standings and tell you the narrative there. As we can see in the Drivers' Championship standings, starting in the top 15, Adam Merchant is the man who leads the way on 171 points. He had the perfect opportunity to seize a Grand Slam at the Circuit of the Americas, and he picked it up, albeit 7 points ahead of Elliot Court and Finley Fitzsimmons a further 2 behind. Now, what do you need to know about the permutations here? Well, Adam Merchant and Finley Fitzsimmons both can improve by a grand total of 40 points. Remember, there's one drop score over the season, and right now they are both taking a 0 score into this round, so therefore they will drop that at the end of the racing today. They're all 3 of them on the grid as well, we should point out and confirm. And when it does mean that right now, for both Fitzsimmons and Merchant, they can both take a maximum of 40 points. So it is looking as though it's very likely between those two, and which one of the two is going to become a 3-time champion, both of them 2-time champions. Meanwhile, the defending champion of Elliot Court, well, he finds himself in a bit more of a precarious position, because whilst he is second on 164 points, his drop score, should he improve today, is an 8, which means he can take a maximum of 32 points forward from this round of racing, and therefore it does mean that for the British driver, he's really got to land the biggest score of them all and hope that Adam Merchant and Finley Fitzsimmons both have a difficult day in the office and do not score as well as they normally would. Should we get a tie for any reason, it will go to result countback, and right now Finley Fitzsimmons with 7 wins to Adam Merchant 6, he would be the one who would take the crown if they were even on scores, and presuming nobody else improves with regards to wins, and it's only all even. So that's also something to consider, but that's the story of the top 3. They are your 3 eligible drivers to take the crown, and remember, Adam Merchant or Finley Fitzsimmons would become a 3-time champion, meanwhile Elliot Court would become a 2-time champion. He would join their ranks. Fabian Sanchez, he sits in 4th. He's 3 points ahead of Elliot Rolls in the battle for 4th place, and while those drivers right now, they both have ups and downs this season. Fabian Sanchez had a brilliant start to his season, of course, but a mid-period that definitely felt as though it was falling apart, but the same can be said for Elliot Rolls. Things haven't quite gone right, and he comes into today with a qualifying ban as well. He's picked up a couple of those this season, and therefore that means he'll be starting all the way from the back of the grid for the purposes of race number 1, and he's made his job even harder than it normally would be. Shahi Zaher has moved to 6th on 96 points, 1 ahead of Leo Dalmar after a great set of results last time out the Circuit of the Americas, and the Arrive and Drive Racing driver right now hoping that he can continue that form and perhaps even get a little bit closer to the top 5 before all is said and done. Jace Mayer is 8th meanwhile, 78 points, 5 ahead of Antonio Bianchi, and Bianchi's return to the podium in the sprint race and also a reasonable result in the feature race at the Circuit of the Americas moves him into 9th, only 4 points ahead of Craig Brick, but to be fair, he'll be very pleased with that given the way his fortunes have ebbed and flowed. The same can be said for Craig Brick, at one point showing a lot of promise, and that promise is still being shown to be fair to the American driver, but right now he needs to resuscitate his fortunes if he wants to beat Bianchi right at the end. Nick Peterson sits in 11th place there, best of the rest on 38 points, 12 ahead of Jaden Callaway, with James Turnbull, Sergey Proc and Nicholas Isidro completing your top 15. Outside the top 15, meanwhile, we can see in 16th place, it's Gareth McAllister on 16 points there, 5 ahead of Demont Dotson, with Felipe Ramos, Robert Nobles and Shade Bruffett completing the top 20, and behind the DDK XTH Jordan driver, it's Renison Lowe in 21st, ahead Austin Thomas, with Johnston Brandt, Jack Mundy and Zavid Zainav completing your top 25. Arturo Miorga, we got to see him bring home some valuable points. Indeed, he was on negative points going into the Circuit of the Americas, but he's now into positive points. He's got 1, and that moves him up 9 places there into 26th. Well done to him. He's just ahead there of Joshua Cronin, Francisco Sosa, and Ryan Thibault, with Matt Strong falling to 30th. And then we do see it outside the top 30 there with negative points as well, where it's also Cameron Nixon, Catherine Sweat falling to 31st and 32nd. And then it's Carlos Bananas, Aaron Gersler, Esteban Marquez, and Ricardo Espino rounding off your Drivers' Championship standings. As for the Teams' Championship, well, this is looking tight as well. If we've got a top 3 battle for the win in the Drivers' Championship, we have got a top 2 battle here in the Teams' Championship. And for DDK Racing, well, they do have the advantage. They have an advantage of 37 points coming into this round, and therefore, in theory, they could wrap it up by the end of the sprint race if things go their way. They have slightly extended their lead compared to when they came into COTA, albeit with rather comparable scores to MSR Purple. They'll know that nothing can be taken for granted, and MSR Purple will surely have one last chance at a big comeback here. However, it is between those two teams. The fight for third, Squid Gang Racing has been able to inch their way ahead of INCA X51C, and with the mistakes that INCA X51 have made, it does mean now the gap of 8 points there, where it's a swing that's not impossible to swing back, but assuming that Adam Merchant is definitely on the grid, which he is, well, Squid Gang Racing right now will be the favourite to take that 3rd place spot. However, never rule out the INCA X51 team, because they've proven that their 2 drivers can be highly consistent. Arrive and Drive Racing sitting 5th there on 134 points, and right now they've got no real pressure on them, with Rodent Racing being the best part there of 36 points behind, and it's a further 30 points to INCA Salsa Racing in 7th. A sizable gap there to the tune of 49 points sits for Raccoon GP, so therefore right now they've got to hold off INCA Chips and MSR Green to round off their run to 8th place, and those 3 teams complete your top 10. DDK XTH Sean sitting 11th ahead of Formula American Racing Team, and then Team Boats sit on 6 points, the last with positive points to their name. On 0 it's INCA Queso on 14th, and then on -8 it's INCA Salsa Verde. Well, that's how the standings stand, ladies and gentlemen, and without further ado, let's now talk about the present and introduce our host circuit for today. Here's of course the Grand Prix pit layout of the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, located near the village of Francorchamps in the municipality of Stavelot in the Liège region of the Wallonia state of Belgium. A huge thank you to iRacing.com, not just for their brilliant simulator, but the absolutely fantastic track maps that come with it. And as we see Andre's take on this wonderful course today, well, the only problem with a 2-dimensional image is the fact it doesn't quite show you the pronounced elevation changes, particularly, of course, the run all the way out from La Source to Radion and onto the Kemmel Straight, and also the gradual downhill descent, if you will, which begins at Les Combes at turns 5 and 6 and concludes at what is the Curve de Paul Ferrier at turn 15. But as the drivers head on around this circuit, it can really be considered to split up into 3 thirds. The natural racing sectors. Sector 1, which begins, of course, at the start-finish line, as our drivers roar the way down the start-finish straight into the heavy braking zone at La Source. We expect 2-3 wide in the early stages and plenty of battling there under braking. It's then a harsh power out there and all the way flat out through Arouge and Radion. Turns 2, 3 and 4, the infamous uphill sequence where it's all about full commitment. They'll complete Sector 1 by the time they get to the end of the Kemmel Straight. We can expect slipstream-based action as well as the push-to-pass buttons being used to their maximum. And then it's into the middle sector. It's all about technical ability, plenty of medium and low speed corners, beginning at the Con chicane at turns 5 and 6. As they roll the way from right into left, it'll then be downhill from turn 7 in towards Rivage Corner at turn number 8, but they come back on themselves and in towards No Name Corner, now known as Jackie Expend at turn number 9. And then they'll make the way into the double left apex at turns 10 and 11. Puon Bend, where it's all about carrying as much speed as possible through the off-camber corner. Get it right and they'll come into the Fanges chicane, the medium speed chicane at turns 12 and 13, before coming through 14 at Stavlo 1 to complete the middle sector. And then into the final sector they'll go. Stavlo 1 gives way way to Stavlo 2 or the Curve de Paul Ferrier, a much more open corner and exit where they'll carry all the speed and they'll be flat out all the way up towards Blanchimont, the very fast left-hander at turn 17, but they go hard onto the brakes into the bus stop chicane of turns 18 and 19 to complete lap and do it all over again. Or alternatively, you see that final finish line. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, a quick reminder of the rules before we do go racing. And as we can see, car setup-wise, this is a fixed setup series with setups provided to our drivers by the League Zero administration team ahead of each and every round. Car fuel loads have been restricted to 40%, which does mean that our drivers will be expected to take some fuel on when we go to the feature race. And we should keep in mind there are no mandatory pit stop requirements in either of the races, as per usual. Now, the qualifying session itself shall be open. What that effectively means is that our drivers will all be out on circuit together, and therefore they've got to try and work around each other, not impede one another, but also they might be able to use one another as an opportunity to gain a draft on the straights, of which the run down the Kenmore Straight is definitely going to be worth at least 2 to 3 attempts, and if they can pick up a draft over the entirety of the lap, it could be worth half a second. But we should emphasise, at the end of the 15 minutes, there is no overtime for the qualifying session, so it means as soon as we hit 0 on the clock, qualifying is complete, and therefore our drivers will immediately be heading to the grid for the first star races, of which we'll see those races commence via a standing start, as is a tradition of the League Zero Formula Series. And a drive-through penalty shall be awarded should a driver get to 17 instant points. And how do we set the grid for the feature race? Just to remind you, we take the result of the sprint and we invert the top 6. So that means the winner of the sprint race starts in 6th for the purposes of the feature, and we continue that inversion until we get to the 6th place finisher in the sprint race. And if you guessed it, they'd be started on pole, you'd be absolutely right for the feature. And those who finish 7th and downwards, well, they start exactly where they finished in the previous race. And as we said, there are no mandatory pit stop requirements, but we do see that pit stop in the feature race. And normally it does mean our drivers will come in for fuel and also a change of tyres. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's make our way back to circuit side. And well, the circuit falls silent in perfect time then, because it is time for us to go into our final qualifying session of the season. Who is going to be on pole? Well, let's find out as qualifying gets underway. Now, as time begins to trickle on down, our drivers will be very eager to get their laps in as quickly as they can, because they do not have that many laps here at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, one of our longest circuits on the calendar. Much like the Circuit of the Americas, the lap time pushing more towards 2 minutes. When you do the quick mathematics, if you base it on a 2-minute lap, 15 divided by 2 equals none other than 7.5. And once you've done your out lap, you are then down to 6 laps effectively. And well, not all those laps you're going to be able to push on, because the tyres of these cars, of course, well, they are in their prime only for the first 2 to 3 laps. After that, the tyre starts to fall away in terms of points, albeit it doesn't become a worthless tyre, as we've seen time and time again. But what the point being here is you really need to hit the lap when you've got your tyres in their prime. But of course, the opposite is true. With this being a fixed setup series, it means our drivers cannot manipulate the fuel load to their cars, and therefore they want to do as many laps as they can in qualifying to burn the fuel out, because every litre of fuel you remove from the car, you remove weight, and it means you go quicker around the lap, particularly on the straights and also through those high-speed bends where you can carry more speed naturally. So it really is the situation whereby you have to, in a way, push hard at the start of qualifying on an open session where everyone's out there trying to race the way around to get the fuel out the car to then in the final few laps have the best possible car to be able to push for pole position. And speaking of those who will push for pole, well, here is your championship leader coming into this round, Adam Merchant, and right now arguably the favourite here, and the momentum has been with him since what has been round number 6. He has gradually been building that momentum over the course of the season, but round 6 onwards, he really has had the upper hand on the rest of the field. Finley Fitzsimmons has tried to stay close, and in qualifying, it's always been very close between them. Whatever Finley Fitzsimmons has been able to do, Adam Merchant has suddenly found a way to outpace him. Will that still be the theme here today when it comes to none other? And what is the concluding round? Will we still see that happen here, or can we expect this man, Finley Fitzsimmons, to suddenly find a way to spring back? And if he does so, well, he's going to be leaving the latest in the day to do it. But to be fair, better late than never, as they say. Once he gets ready to go into his first flying lap, we'll definitely get you on board a lap or two in this qualifying session, but not exactly on the first ones, because they won't have the tyres fully switched on yet. They'll need one more lap before they do so, but Finley Fitzsimmons knowing that the pressure is with him. And what about Elliott Court, defending champion? Remember, of course, he is the driver with the disadvantage, because whilst he is second in the Drivers' Championship, he does have a weaker improvement margin when you consider the drop scores applied, whereby he can only take in a maximum of an extra 32 points onto his score if he does take all the points today. And remember, in terms of the points that can be achieved by drivers, it is the points for what will be the wins plus also the fastest lap. So in fact, he can take 34 points there, as I've revised my mental mathematics, because there's an extra point for both of those fastest laps, and therefore it's a maximum of 42 points available. But as he heads on down right now, and Elliott Court looking quick, and indeed, well, in fact, I double-checked myself there, and I stumbled over myself because it is 38 points in the first instance, so I was correct the first time around. I do apologise there, but indeed, the point being right now, the margins are going to be absolutely marginal between these drivers, and there is nothing more to say other than they need to get on with it and see what they can do today. But weaving his way on around, we meanwhile look back to Arturo Mayorga. And the number 55 driver here heading on down the hill. And as he rolls his way up through a Rivage bend right now, well, the INCA Salsa driver, knowing that he's had some great moments this season, particularly last time out, he picked up some very valuable points at the Circuit of the Americas. It seems like he was very comfortable in doing the Texas two-step in tricky conditions. But here today, we're expecting sunshine every step of the way. No rain on the forecast, at least from what I've been able to gather. And therefore, Mayo hoping that this is all going to play out right. But of course, how it plays out in qualifying versus the races can be two very different things. A little bit further down the order, James Turnbull here. He comes on through Lacombe and heads towards Rivage. And, well, a little bit further away from the field, but I suspect this might be a bit of a gambit here to give himself some clear track, albeit it will cost him some time, understandably, when he is a little bit further behind the running procession. As those first laps starts coming in, well, Adam Merchant sets the initial benchmark at a 52.600. Meanwhile, Elliott Court then coming through a further 1 second behind almost, 8 tenths in fact. And Finney Fitzsimmons goes in third. But now Adam Merchant onto his second flying lap, and he's going to build up the pace from this point onwards. Leo Domar hits the line, and we're going to jump on board him for a flying lap as he takes us down in towards La Source. So braking at the 100 metre board, down to third gear, down to second in fact, so he goes for the corner exit, and now full throttle all the way. Here he goes then, past the old start-finish line, the GT start-finish line. Now heading up the hill, let's listen in. An absolute full commitment there for Rouge and Radion, flat out all the way and heading onto the Kemmel Straight here now. It's all about just seeing how much speed you can carry as he brings the car very gently over to the left-hand side, hitting 189 miles an hour. He goes onto the brakes there, coming in towards Lacombe. Braking at the start of the entry curve on the left, comes down to fourth gear, giving a higher gear there to prevent wheel spin, and through the right-hander at turn number 7, he now heads down towards Rivage. Here you need to brake slightly earlier, braking at about 100 metres from corner apex, coming down the gearbox to third gear, trailing off the brake, making sure not to apply too much throttle, otherwise he'll understeer out wide. Now coming in towards No Name Bend through the left-hander, a little bit of understeer there on the apex, the car just washing out, but he did get it back together. And now in towards Pilon, coming in towards the double left. Turned in a bit early there, and then suddenly realised too early for that. Takes a bit of apex curve, that's going to upset his line, it'll cost him a 10th. Now coming down in towards the Fangers chicane. Well, here it's all about carrying all the speed through the right-hander to set up a straight line for the left. Does that very nicely there, does Leo Domar, and coming out to the left-hander at turn number 13. Now it's into Stavlo 1. Brake 50 meters from quarter apex, down 2 gears to third, and now stamp the throttle, commit at this point. You've got to turn in at the right time. He does so very nicely there. A little bit wide, perhaps could have turned in slightly earlier, but still carries the speed he needs. And now all the way out towards Blanchimont. Now at this point, well, coming in towards the very fast left-hand, he will let the car drift out as much as possible. He can put 2 wheels beyond the white line and then turns in. Very gentle steering input in there, using the downforce to its maximum. And getting ready for the brakes for the bus stop chicane here. Braking at about 120 metres from corner entry, down to second gear, and well, through the right, in towards left, open up that left-hander as much as possible and blast the throttle to the line. What's it going to be here from Leo Domar? Well, in the end, it's not an improvement. It's a 54.923, and his previous best was a 54.11. So I think some small mistakes there, but to be fair, still 6th place at the moment at least. But at the very top, it's still Adam Merchant, the quickest of everybody, at 52.600. And he'll be very pleased with that. That was his first lap out the box. But right now, I suspect taking the tyres for a bit of a heating phase and then getting himself set for another attack lap when he can. But who else out there right now is looking good, I hear you ask? Well, we do see Gareth McAllister. He makes his way down in towards turns 18 and 19. And he's down in 13th at the moment, still fancying his time. And just a reminder, of course, we do have the qualifying ban for Elliott Rolls. But otherwise, we do have here today Robert Nobles, Esteban Marquez, Joshua Cronin, Felipe Ramos, and Matt Strong. And I believe Marquez may have a penalty carrying over from a previous round where he's got a qualifying ban, as he wasn't on the grid last time out at the Circuit of the Americas, if my memory serves me correctly, and therefore that ban has been carried forward. But as Felipe Ramos makes his way onto the back stretch and up towards Blanchimont. Well, right now, I hope he gets first lap on the board here. He's been a bit late to getting out there in this qualifying session. And well, in fact, he's on an out lap by the looks of things as he comes up towards the next braking zone. So therefore, not right now going on a 4 attack lap. But the next time around, we will expect him to be on that timing tower unless he invalidates his lap. So therefore, he gets ready to go as Sergei Proc. Well, you either have a great day if you're Sergei Proc, you have a difficult day. There's no in-between for this man in the number 96. There have been moments where he's been chasing the podium, and there have been moments where, just like like this right now, he's been outside the top 10 really struggling, as we do see the MSR green machine of Robert Noble's parking up there on the grass, coming out to turn number 1. So he's going to tow to the pits most likely, unless right now he's taking a bit of a breather and deciding to embark in the scenery. Well, to be fair, he might be. In fact, he is, I think, trying to get the car rolling out there, but he's having a bit of difficulty. But meanwhile, as we have a bit of a change coming through, Finley Fitzsimmons now up to 3rd, just ahead of Antonio Bianchi, only by 1.5 tenths there. These two swapping around as there's Nobles rejoining, bring some grass onto the road with him. But Finley Fitzsimmons right now, he's in a bit more time, but I think he's now gifting the tow there to Antonio Bianchi. And meanwhile, just behind you see Fabian Sanchez there following his teammates. So therefore the INCA X51C team out in full force today. They want that 3rd place in the Teams Championship, and they are going to go for it. But down the Kemmel Straight they come, and, well, Nobles immediately pulls offline there to help out his MSR Purple teammate, albeit the sister team car, and we see Bianchi there gifting up the tow to Fabian Sanchez. So this is all about Fabian Sanchez trying to improve, and Sanchez as well. And if you remember, of course, the fact that he really was Mr. 2nd place in our season opener at Phillip Island. Since then, he hasn't quite been able to recapture that form, but he has had some highlights, albeit you could say that he's had some highlights in battling with this man. It is Shahi Zahair in the Arrive and Drive Racing machine, and pulls to the left because he's given his teammate Nick Peterson a tow, and then he lets that go, and, well, they're all trying to work together here. They're trying to improve late on in the day. But meanwhile, a man who's definitely not Mr. Popular when it comes to having a teammate out there, his teammate Jaden Calloway not on the grid. Calloway was on the grid for the first couple of rounds, and then Adam Merchant seems to have taken over, unless they're both the same person, of course, ladies and gentlemen, because we haven't actually seen both of them on the grid together this season, my memory serves me correctly. Of course, they are two different people in reality, but there's always that running joke, is there not? When you do see two teammates, but they're never on the grid together at the same time, aren't they just the same person under a different alias? Is it the case that Adam Merchant right now is the Superman to Jaden Calloway's Clark Kent? Well, you never know. But right now, the number 4 driver heading down towards turns 18 and 19. And what we do know is currently he is on an improving lap. But Elliott Court's on an even quicker lap. He's gone purple in sectors 2 and 3. And as he comes towards the timing line in the subsector 4, what's he going to be able to do here? He improves it to 52.870. It's not enough to dethrone Adam Merchant. Finley Fitzsimmons, meanwhile, goes second, a 10th off now of Merchant, and Fabian Sanchez moves up to 4th place. They're all improving right towards the end of this session, and right now, can anybody else improve? Well, John Stunbra in the wonderful golf delivery machine, he's currently in 11th place here, coming out to the final corners, and well, Stunbra heading towards the timing line. Can he improve from 11th right now? He does improve in the middle sector, and in the end, it's not enough to improve. Jace Mayer is leaving the pit lane, the second member of the MSR Purple team. He has left the pit lane, in fact, a long time ago. He's on an out lap, and right now he's getting ready to go onto his next flying lap. As we see a car around there, is that Shahi Zahair who's gone for a spin? I think it is. He's towed to the pit lane, so therefore that's going to completely put a torpedo in his qualifying campaign. With 5 minutes to go, all the fuel's going to end up going back in the car. That's not what you want at all, and therefore now that is going to hurt him considerably, because it might be very difficult for him to improve at this point. But meanwhile, as all these drivers continue to push, well, nobody right now being able to improve too much, and indeed Adam Merchant, well, I think that first lap out the box has really been an absolute monster of a lap, as James Turnbull jumps up to 10th place down to 54.197. So improvements are coming further down the order, but inside that top 10, improvements are really hard to graft right now, but never say never. And I do wonder how long that 133 thousandths advantage that Adam Merchant has over Finley Fitzsimmons is going to stand, because Fitzsimmons right now is trying to cook up something even quicker. He has gone personal best in what is the first sector. He has gone purple in the middle sector as Finley Fitzsimmons. So now it's all going to come down to the final sector here, as meanwhile Matt Strong has finally got a valid lap on the board. So we now have 18 out of your eligible 20 qualifiers, with 22 participants today getting laps together. Felipe Ramos also gets a lap together. We said that he was eventually going to get one, of 55.965, but meanwhile Finley Fitzsimmons heads towards the line. What's it going to be this time around for Fitzsimmons? Well, the answer is going to be, as he comes towards that time line, I think it's going to be enough to get closer. It is, but we jump aboard with him for another flying lap, his last flying lap of the session. Can he dethrone Merchant from pole? Well, let's find out as we take you on that journey. So through turn 1 he goes, a lovely line, albeit a little bit of power oversteer on exit, but that shows you how hard he's pushing. Now heading up towards turns 2, 3 and 4 in towards Erosion Radion. Here completely flat out, cutting as much apex on entry as possible to straight line his way for the subsequent 2 corners. Now heading on towards the Kemmel Straight here. Remember, there's no push to pass buttons available on these cars right now. They have to do it based on literally their own ability and the available power of the 550 brake horsepower to lead to 4-cylinder engine. Coming in towards Lake Om then, onto the brakes as late as possible, right into left, drops to 3rd gear there between the apexes to increase his ability to retard the car through the left-hander. Now coming out, getting all the power down, using the exit curve as much as possible. Down the hill in towards the Ravage then, braking as late as possible down to second gear, holding the car against a wave of understeer, and now over to the right-hand side to open up No Name Bend. Through the left he goes, using all the runoff area there, plus a little bit of what is gravel, and now coming down towards Puon, looking to his right-hand side, braking as late as possible if he needs to. In fact, just the lift there, drops down to fifth gear mid-apex to help rotate the car, and now back up to sixth as he heads up towards the Fanders chicane. Brings the car to the left-hand side, and now how far would he drop down the gearbox? He drops to fifth, then to fourth, then to third. Very late, back up to fourth here to minimise wheel spin. Going through the left-hander and in towards the right of Stavlo 1. Onto the brakes, down to third gear here, and now back on full power immediately. Runs a little bit wide, he'll get away with that. Fifth gear there, very nice apex going through Stavlo 2. And full throttle now all the way. This is a very quick lap from Fitzsimmons. He has done a personal best in the middle sector. However, it's not been purple. He's not purple anyone this lap right now, but coming in towards Blanchimont, well, through the left. You'd say he's always been purple given the colour of the car, but that's not the point. As they come down towards the bus stop chicane here, as late as he'll brake as possible here. He's going to go all the way down to first gear right. Left goes a little bit deep of the first apex. That will compromise his line slightly. And for Finney Fitzsimmons, what is this going to be? Is it enough? And the answer is no, it's not. It's a 52.643. He's 42 thousandths off. Antonio Bianchi, what a lap from him. A 52.648. He almost removes Fitzsimmons from the front row of the grid. Where's that come from? Well, he's left it late in the season to put together a magical lap like that. But to be fair, last lap magic's not a bad thing. Meanwhile, Leo Domar jumps up to sixth place. That's a good effort from him for what is the team, and right now as he makes way out for Rodent Racing, well, he'll be hopeful he can stay on that third row of the grid. It'll be one of his best qualifying points of the season since the early stages. Meanwhile, Shahi Zaher, he's currently down in 12th place, and well, this is not a qualifying session to be remembered for him, in the fact he's been beaten by his teammate Nick Peterson, albeit only by 200. Jace Mayer jumps up to 10th place there. They're all in print. He picked up a bit of a toe there off of one of the Rodent Racing machines. In fact, that's not a Rodent Racing car, that's an INCA Salsa car there. Similar colours, but you need to look a little bit closer to discern the differences. And meanwhile, as we do look to Carlos Balanasi, he comes across the line. The highest he's going to go in this one will be 16th place. So for Balanasi, it has not worked out in qualifying. And indeed, he's been beaten to the post there by Robert Nobles, with Joshua Cronin close behind. 30 seconds left on the clock. And right now, most drivers have done their qualifying laps. They won't be able to get any more in. Matt Strong 30 seconds away. Will he be able to get this lap on the board? He is currently the 20th place driver, a whole second, or in fact 1.1 seconds off Felipe Ramos, but indeed he will start ahead of Elliot Rolls and Esteban Marquez. But remember, those two drivers of course do have qualifying bans, and therefore they've not been allowed to take part in this qualifying session. And Strong comes down in towards the final course. He will be able to finish this lap. Personal best in the middle sector. First sector has not been great, and the last sector meanwhile, what's it going to be for Strong? Does he get it right or does he get it wrong? He gets it right, but he stays 20th, ladies and gentlemen, as we complete qualifying. And it does mean it is now time to make your way to the grid for the first of your two races. And so here we go to the grid for race number 1 of the day in the finale, round 9 of 9 of season 17 of the League Zero Formula Series, presented by INCA Salsa, brought to you on iRacing. Adam Merchant has taken pole position then, a very valuable pole ahead of Finney Fitzsimmons, but the Squid Gang Racing driver will know that the run down towards turn number 1 is a short one, and it's all about the run all the way up to none other than the Kemmel Straight. Behind the two front starters, and particularly Finney Fitzsimmons at MSR Purple, you'll see Antonio Bianchi starting third for INCA X51C. The Canadian driver will then have the man who's trying to defend his championship crown of Elliot Court joining him on the second row of the grid, and the DDK Racing driver Elliot Court then 9 that he needs to beat the two on the front row if he wants a chance of defending it. Fabian Sanchez starts in 5th there for INCA X51C, directly behind his teammate and in the company of Leo Domar for Rodent Racing starting 6th. Behind the Frenchman is Shea Bruffett in 7th there for DDK XTH Jordan, sneaking under the radar there and putting himself inside the top 10 once again. Well done to him. James Turnbull begins this one in 8th place there, one of his better qualifying points is for Raccoon GP, ahead of Gareth McAllister, who makes one to the 5th row, 9th on the grid for INCA Chips, and Jace Mann for MSR Purple rounds off that top 10. Outside the top 10 at 11th, it's Nick Peterson for Arrive and Drive Racing. In the end, the better of himself and his teammate Shahi Zaher. They're both in line, 11th and 13th. But to the right, and we do see it'll be Sergei Proc 12th and Johnston Bra 14th. Then on row at number 8, it's Robert Nobles at MSR Green, ahead of Carlos Balanos for Raccoon GP, with Joshua Cronin starting not in 17th, as I get my numbers correct, for Team Boat, ahead of Arturo Mayorga for INCA Chips. Then we do have Felipe Ramos starting 19th there for INCA Queso, ahead of Matt Strong, the last of the qualifying drives at INCA Salsa Racing. And outside that top 20, starting from the back of the grid, it's going to be Esteban Marquez and Elliot Rolls there, both with qualifying bans being served. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is the grid already set and done. As the two DDK Racing drivers bring up the rear of the grid, we are waiting now for one driver to take to the very front of the grid. He's keeping everyone waiting. There is Adam Merchant, and for the first time today, here come the lights. And so the revs rise, and for the first race day, it's going to be firing lights at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. And it's lights down, away we go here for the first of season finale race. They roar the way down towards turn number 1. First they come into the race, and oh, there's been a big incident right at the back of the field straight away. Matt Strong, I think, has been in contact with somebody. But meanwhile, all will try to make the way through the opening bend, and as they do, well, plenty more fighting to come surely here as they roar the way onwards. But heading upwards, do we have a safety car already? Well, we've got change of foot here. I don't know if we do. A lot of tries going quite slowly. I think we might be under safety car before we've even really got green flag racing there, ladies and gentlemen. I think there's been an incident between Arturo Mayorga and Matt Strong. And indeed, we do have a safety car for the start line incident. So places have been essentially given up and changed around there. So it really has put a bit of a dampener in our ability to go racing immediately. But of course, what it means is we're going to see the safety car deployed at the end of this lap. And we are going to spend at least 2 laps behind it. So what is a 6-lap race right now? I suspect we may not be seeing the full distance here because it is a long lap by default. And it's going to be an even longer one when you're behind the safety car. In fact, what would normally be a sub 2-minute lap is going to be pushing it upwards towards 3 minutes, if not 3.5 minutes. And as our drivers all make the way around, they've been told now they can catch up to the safety car, which will be awaiting them at the exit of the pit lane on the next lap. But no battling is allowed, no racing is allowed. But we've had a big incident between Nick Peterson, Arturo Mayorga and Matt Strong, and that's what has brought out the safety car, and we need to get a replay of that as the safety car has been deployed. And the good news is we can now take a trip back in time and understand what exactly has happened, as here we go with a replay. So this was the replay of Matt Strong's start then. You can see behind him, Esteban Marquez, they're directly behind. So gets the launch, slow off the line. Oh, there was a car stationary there. Oh, goodness me. And in the end, Mobile Drive's checking up and breaking up there. Matt Strong will just find him. There was a car stops right in front of him and then going straight into the back. Can we get the on board from his perspective? Yes, we can. So watch what happens there as they get the launch. And you're going to see, at first, everyone goes on the left-hand side. Then suddenly cars come across the road. And at that point, Matt Strong's got no time to react because he's already started to build up speed. The turbo spooled on the car essentially, and at that point he can't get the car to stop. Meanwhile, this is what it looked like from Arturo Mayorga's perspective, when in fact this was after it had already started, so we need to look a little bit earlier than that to see what exactly happened. But who exactly was caught right up in the midst of all that? Well, we hear all the revs rising once again as they went. It was there, the Arrive and Drive racing machine. That was none other than, I do believe, Nick Peterson just not moving, and that's what caused it all by the looks of things. Indeed, Nick Peterson seemed to just struggle to go. Can we get an alternative perspective? Can we see from Peterson's car what exactly happened? We might be able to here. And, well, as we do look down to him, so they went. He did not go at all. Shahi's hair hit him, and that triggered off the domino effect there, caused a chain reaction for the cars behind, and that explains it. So Nick Peterson just did not get going at all in that procedure. And can we get a listen to the onboard there, Nick Peterson's car, to understand what may have gone wrong? And well, we listen, and well, there's no revs or anything for Nick Peterson's car. So as the lights go out here, in the end, just nothing's working with Peterson. At that point, the Arrive and Drive racing driver's got a problem with the car, and well, he does get going eventually, but by that time, well, whatever it was besetted him, just not going. I wonder if it was a faulty throttle pedal or something along those lines, where he managed to get it going in the end, but I think that's more of a bump start for him than anything else. But that explains exactly what happened, ladies and gentlemen, as we do return to your live circuit side pictures. And so as we come back right on board here with Antonio Bianchi, remember they are behind the safety car at the moment, albeit it does say that we are on only lap 1 of 6, but we are definitely on what is lap number 2 currently, and that will be updated the next time we come on around to go to lap number 3. And well, as we do bring the timer up in the top left corner of your screen, you can see there 11 minutes left on the clock, but right now for these drivers this is definitely a race which has had a bit of a halt into it, and we have got Peterson, Zaher, Marquez, Mayorga and Strong in the pit lane. Matt Strong has retired from the race, understandably, given the damage to the car. And remember, with the cars being towed to the pit lane there, we do not have any fast repairs in the League Zero Formula Series. We try to make this as realistic as possible, whereby things do go wrong and you pick up damage in the Super Formula cars, you're going to be spending a very long time in the pit lane. And that's why even a small tap to the front wing or the rear wing can be absolutely detrimental, as you would expect in an open wheel race with so much downforce on it. And as we do see a very heavy damage car there. Hold up a second. What on earth has happened to Fabian's... Well, is that Fabian Sanchez's car? I think so. It's missing all the rear off of it. I wonder, whilst we were looking back at what exactly happened at the start, whether Sanchez has been in some sort of contact with another driver. We can't see anything to any other car at the moment, at least, but Fabian Sanchez is missing the entire rear of his car's cover. All the engine cowling is gone, plus the rear wing. And well, I wouldn't be surprised if Sanchez will be into the pit lane at the end of this lap. But right now, well, understanding behind that safety car, they've got this lap plus another one. And unfortunately, we can't get you a replay of what exactly has happened to Fabian Sanchez. We can tell you, however, there's been something that's gone very wrong, and he's missing the entire rear of the car. But as the field carries on, this will be quite a frustrating race for everybody involved because, of course, they'll be going around here at speeds no greater, really, than around 60 to 70 miles an hour at most. You can see Adam Murch now to actually queue everyone up around 58 miles an hour behind the safety car, and that is going to cost them a lot of tyre temperature. That's why you're seeing so much weaving going on as we do get to a straight bit of tarmac because they all want to get as much tyre temperature as possible. But with that tyre temperature lacking, it does mean when we go for the restart we can expect mistakes from drivers if they push the tyre too hard, and essentially it will feel as though it's going to be a rolling restart, a single file rolling restart when we go green flag racing again. Of course, the nice thing for Adam Merchant will be the fact that he will dictate when we go green, and therefore he will feel as though he might be able to control the narrative in the run through Erogen Radion on the restart, and therefore feel safe versus what will be Finley Fitzsimmons by the time they get down the end of the Kemmel Straight. If Fitzsimmons is able to counter what will be his race start and be able to anticipate it, we could have a real battle on our hands down the Kemmel Straight on lap number 4. But as lap number 2 comes to an end, the safety car lights do stay on. It means we do have one more lap behind the safety car. It's always 2 or more from the point of deployment, so it does mean we go 1 plus 2. That's going to be 3 laps done. But next time around, as Fabian Sanchez does make his way into the pit lane, well, whatever happens to Fabian Sanchez, we won't know for certain, but what we do know is all the damage on that car right now, and that is going to put him a long way down, put him to the back of the field as they all cross that timing line. But as everyone comes on through, well, we are just waiting for the restart, but time definitely falls away, and that lap time, to put you in perspective, 4 minutes and 12 seconds on average, so therefore that's why we're probably not going to see all 6 laps. We're probably only going to see 5 laps now in this race. Again, we have got 6 on the schedule, and well, hopefully we don't see a safety car in race number 2, because otherwise what will be our 20 lap finale may actually turn out to be around a 16 to 17 lap finale if we do have a safety car. But there, the lights are off. That means it will be coming in at the end of the next lap, and therefore everyone now starts to need to get themselves prepared for what is to come as all of our drivers make the way up the hill. Where it is a big respite, it's a very different start to what we perhaps anticipated here for our first of our 2 races for this season finale, the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. But James Turnbull right now, well, having dropped a place since the start, having started in 8th, now down to 9th, but he's got plenty of company around him and want to get right into the fight. Cloud coming over the circuit as well. That definitely means that in terms of our weather conditions, we've got a cooling circuit for now. 18 degrees centigrade ambient is relatively cool today, but also we can see there track temperature wise 19 degrees centigrade currently, so it's not a warm circuit, and particularly we will lose track temperature given the fact that our drivers are not going down their lane down the proverbial rubber. But the partial cloud does mean that the sun doesn't heat the surface up either, so it's not helping, but it means a cool circuit. They will be able to push quite hard once they've warmed their tyres up. It's just reheating the tyres, that's the hard part, which they all need to be cognizant of. But as they come through Lake On, well, we look a bit further back. Joshua Cronin here, who's picked up several places as a result of what's befallen others, and the wonderful livery machine as he comes rolled on through. And we do say hello to the 43 driver there. We always do love the livery on that car, to be fair. Well, right now he does have Philippe Ramos and Elliot Rolls behind. So we did have 22 starters to this race. We're down to 16 at this time, but I suspect we're still going to see plenty of excitement. But for Elliot Rolls, of course, what might have been a great opportunity and to make his way through the field, but he's got a lot of work to do, and he's now going to have 1 less lap to do it beyond the 2 he's already burnt. Well, in fact, the 3 he's already burned behind the safety car, so he's only going to have laps 4 and 5, and can he somehow find his way up the order? If he can get inside the top 10 to pick up some points, that'd be great. If he can find a way to finish in 6th place to invert himself onto pole position for race number 2, I think that will really be a miracle. But, to be fair, miracles do happen, as they say, and therefore for DDK Racing right now, if they want to hold on to this team's championship, they are going to need Elliot Court to deliver up front and Elliot Rolls to somehow find his way into the points. Meanwhile, MSR Purple, with Jace Mann 8th and Finney Fitzsimmons in 2nd, right now, MSR Purple would be gaining some ground, but they're going to need a big haul of points in the final race if they want to turn it around. But coming in towards Vange's chicane, we can see the field now starting to itch a little bit. Adam Murch will be hoping and the safety car can get a bit of a move on, but of course, being an automated safety car, it goes at predetermined speed. There's no extra speed coming from it, and indeed, he can't harass the safety car to try and get it to go any faster. As we look back from the rear of him right now, and there is Finney Fitzsimmons, the man he needs to beat Of course, it is going to come down to the restart here, as much it is going to be about lap pace at this point. And if Merchant can get this start right, he might be safe. If he doesn't quite get it right, he may find himself under attack very early on upon the restart, and there will only be 2 laps at this point. It's 5.5 minutes to go. Well, by the time they get restarted, we will be at approximately what will be 4 minutes remaining. And if we are able to squeeze the 6th lap in, that would be fantastic. But something tells me we may not. And as all these drivers come on down right now, it is going to be close. But here we go. Adam Merchant right now getting himself gradually set. A bit more weaving side to side. Vinny Fitzsimmons and Elliot Court already. And the top 3 of the championship here now. Albeit the championship leader ahead of the 3rd place man, with the 2nd place man behind all of them. And DDK Racing number 1. 9 right now. He needs to find a way in between them if he wants to undo all the work that they've done. But falls back a little bit there, trying to get a bit of tyre temperature in. He's allowed to fall back slightly, but not too much. And right now for Elliot Court, 9, he's got to be ready. They've all got to be ready here, because Adam Merchant makes his way into the last couple of corners. The safety car will peel into the pits, and it'll be up to him to restart the race. And he goes once again, ladies and gentlemen. We have green flag racing for the final 3 laps, potentially 2, as they make the way towards turn number 1. And Adam Merchant right now going defensive immediately. Vinny Fitzsimmons staying with him, and Elliot Court there as well. And suddenly here comes Fitzsimmons. Overtake button fully on here. And he's going to try and take the lead before they get through Aruja and Radio. It's going to be 2 wide heading up the hill. Who's going to be the bravest of the bunch? Look behind. It's going to be side by side between Elliot Court and Adam Merchant. And Court does get ahead. So Vinny Fitzsimmons there benefiting from the DDK Racing drive, seized upon the opportunity. And Adam Merchant being caught napping on the restart. Here's Antonio Bianchi follows on through as well. All the field cubs are down, but Fitzsimmons is into the lead. Look at Shea Bruffett looking up the inside here. It's going to be almost 3 wide under braking. Bruffett goes to move for full plays, but Bianchi holds it around the outside, and Bruffett's wound. He goes into the barrier, loses the rear of the car, and Shea Bruffett's into the wall. Meanwhile, Elliot Court's down under pressure from Adam Merchant. And Merchant right now, whilst he has got the points advantage, he'll know if things finish as they currently stand, his advantage will be slashed. It will almost be negligible to both Court and Fitzsimmons, so therefore he really does want to win this race. But coming down for X-Bend at the moment at least, where it looks like Finny Fitzsimmons is bolting away. Overtake buttons fully on now once again. And we've had an incident for Sergei Proc further back as well. Try and get a replay of that when we can. But going on down the hill right now, all these drivers pushing each other onwards. And well, the restart definitely absolutely entertaining one. And we've seen some imprints from other drivers as well. And Jace Mail on the back of Gareth McAllister still. And the MSR Purple driver hoping he can pick up one more place here to get himself in that reverse grid. But look at James Turnbull. He's really now goading onto the back of the number 77. He hopes that he might be able to make a move, and may have made a small mistake there. And those mistakes prove costly as Carlos Banos looking one way then the other. Looks up the inside to Stavlo 1. Too far back behind Robert Nobles there, and right now has to wait. But Robert Nobles runs wide. That might just get into what we know is his head. The fact he's run wide as in front. Well, here we do see a bit of a change of foot. And in fact, oh my good Lord, what's going on wrong there in the back of the picture? That's Carlos Banos, that's Robert Nobles. They've all been caught with each other, and I think Elliot Rolls has been able to avoid that just about. But Carlos Banos and James Turnbull, they've been caught up in a big moat, no doubt about it. But meanwhile, back to the front of the field, we are on to what will be potentially the final lap of this race. And well, Finny Fitzsimmons right now, your leader, bolting away. But Adam Merchant get back at Elliot Court, but that's into La Source. Of course, that's not the end of it, because they come out that right-hander. Now they make the way in towards the Origin Radio, and here Elliot Court's going to be the man with all the speed to play with. We jump on board here as he has his push to pass. Indeed, they'll be maxing it out as much as humanly possible. And we'll in that draft, he's going to pick up a huge amount of speed here, heading down onto the Keble Straight, going to the outside. It's going to be a drag race all the way on down. And we're right now, how close do they get to each other? Will they touch? The answer's going to be no, not quite yet. But Adam Merchant trying to defend. Too wide onto the break, and in the end, Elliot Court will sweep around. Leo Domar, he does the same. They're around the outside of Antonio Bianchi, so he moves forward. Bianchi, they're trying to come back at him, but in the end, a bit too close and cannot find a way to go to the outside of turn number 7. So change of foot. Philippe Ramos, meanwhile, make his way on past Joshua Cronin. Goes a bit too deep, and Cronin under pressure from Elliot Rolls. Rolls right now trying to go around the outside of turn number 7. That's not going to work. He's going to have to wait. But from them, Antonio Bianchi still fighting here with Leo Domar. Domar defends the inside of Rick's Bend, and through the left-hander, still 2-1 coming down the hill. Look behind Gareth McAllister's trying to get involved now, and onto the brakes here for Paul on Bend, who's going to be the braver of the bunch, and it's going to be Antonio Bianchi. Goes all the way around the outside, but goes too wide. He runs out onto the exit area, and that'll be into the runoff space, and in the end now, will he have to give the time back? We'll definitely be coming off track, but whether he gives the time back or not, that will be up to the iRacing shooting system. But Bianchi right now holding on. I think he's allowed to hold the place at least for now, but he can't keep doing it. But meanwhile, looking back to your leader here, well, with 1 minute to go, we should be getting an extra lap in, but it looks like I think, in fact, we might be calling time in this race after 5 laps, but Vinny Fitzsimmons right now in control by 2.3 seconds. Elliott Court, meanwhile, will Adam Merchant not quite able to find a way back at him at the moment. He's hoping for one more lap, as meanwhile Gareth McAllister here still fighting to Antonio Bianchi and Leo Del Mar. He's moved ahead of what is Leo Del Mar there as they make the way onwards, but meanwhile the checker flag is called, ladies and gentlemen, and it means that with 30 seconds to go, Vinny Fitzsimmons, he starts the day with a win, and it'll be Adam Merchant coming home in second place in the end. As where's Elliott Court gone? Where on earth has the defending champion disappeared to? He's made a mistake at the final corner. He drops to third. Gareth McAllister takes full bed, and Leo Del Mar. Antonio Bianchi takes sixth, and with it will be pole position for the final race of the season, with Jace Mann seventh place ahead of Johnston Bra. Now we Philippe Ramos and Joshua Cronin who complete your top 10, with Elliott Rolls in the end, 11th place, the last of your classified finishers. And, well, what an end to that race, ladies and gentlemen. Absolute pandemonium. We couldn't quite find out what exactly did happen to those who were involved in that altercation coming out of the Curve de Port Ferrier midway through. But to be fair, there was absolute scenes, absolute drama. And, well, let's bring you those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. And here they are. And as we can see, after what's only 2 effective laps of racing in the end, Vinny Fitzsimmons, your winner for MSR Purple, nailed it on the restart and was able to catch Adam Merchant out down the Kemmel Straight and takes the win, and it moves him just that little bit closer. Indeed, what a race between them. But meanwhile, Merchant taking it home at second place, and 9, he still holds his championship lead just for now. And for Elliott Court, third place there. Well, late spin coming out of the bus stop chicane by looks things, and the DDK Racing team driver dropping a third, and now knowing that his opportunity to become a 2-time champion has been made even harder. Still, he was ahead of Gareth McAllister, who squeezed his way on through to pass Leo Del Mar and Antonio Bianchi right at the end. The INCA Chips driver taking one of his best performances of the season at 4th place ahead of Leo Del Mar. The Rodent Racing driver in the end being shuffled down, but not as much as Antonio Bianchi, who with 6th will take pole position for our final race of the season for INCA X51C. Jace Matt 7th there for MSR Purple ahead of Johnston Bra, only 3 tenths between the two of them. There was a further 4 seconds back almost to Felipe Ramos there for Inca Queso, with the Brazilian followed up by none other than Joshua Cronin for Team Boats, who completed your top 10. In 11th, Elliott Rolls for DDK Racing, and then with all the drama that played out on the closing laps, we did see that a lap down finish for Carlos Balanos, as we did for James Turnbull. The 2 Raccoon GP drives really losing out massively there, and well, there's a big story, a big what if as to what exactly happened, and we also did see a lap down there for Robert Nobles for MSR Green. It was 2 laps down to Shea Buffett and to Sergei Perroc, and we did see 3 laps down there to Fabian Sanchez, and the INCA X51C driver, of course, retiring the car after losing was the rear engine cannon wing as a result of being behind the safety car. Again, we're not quite sure what exactly happened. It was unfortunately retirements for Shahi Zahir, Esteban Marquez, Nick Peterson, and also retirements for Arturo Mayorga and Matt Strong, all caught up, of course, on the start-finish line procedure incident. And indeed, it all went wrong for Nick Peterson, couldn't get the car moving, and the rest of the field fell victim to that as a result. But that, ladies and gentlemen, was race number 1 of round 9, our 200th Grand Prix here in the League Zero Formula Series, and for season 16, the season finale, and we're still got one more race to come. The 20-lap feature is just around the corner. 3 minutes from now, we'll be making our way to the grid one last time this season. And when we do, well, you need to hold on to your hats, because this is going to be a season finale not to forget. And right now, with the win for Fitzsimmons, Merchant taking that second place and Elliott Court in third. What it does mean in terms of the points at the moment, well, Fitzsimmons will have closed the gap to Adam Merchant by 2 points. So the gap is going to come down to 7 points. And Elliott Court, meanwhile, with what will be 8 points gained. Well, his current drop is an 8, so he hasn't really gained anything at the moment. Keep in mind, of course, that Merchant and Fitzsimmons both have 0 points to their names, but also to keep in mind that we have had the fastest lap from that race confirmed. It was Finley Fitzsimmons who took the fastest lap in our first race, with 52.189. So, for Finley Fitzsimmons, it's an extra point on top there, and it means, in fact, he's now 6 points behind Adam Merchant, so he needs to achieve a 6-point swing. He has got the wins in hand to do it on result count back, but he now needs to find a way to make the swing happen with regards to the points out there to get them at least even. And there is Fitzsimmons following his teammate Jace Mad down the pit lane, and once they park up, he knows now he's one race away from potentially becoming a 3-time champion, as is Adam Merchant. But meanwhile, for Elliott Court, well, the challenge is he's got to find a way to overcome the difficulties of race 1. He's got to hope that his 2 rivals have a dismal second race of the day, and he's got to achieve all the points possible. That is far from easy. But But Leo Domar, right now, all he'll be thinking about is the fact that it was a good race one for him, but there's more still to come. And even some of these drivers as well, they'll all be absolutely itching to go green flag racing again. But we've still got a minute of time. So what we're going to do here in the commentary booth, because I suspect we're going to need it with the way the racing has gone, we're going to take a quick sip of water to refresh our throats, and we're all going to be ready for our final race of the season. And so, ladies and gentlemen, as we do see ourselves now to the end of the warm-up session, and Johnston Bra definitely keeping us entertained in the meantime by putting some laps together here and keeping the adrenaline flowing. Well, definitely not the race he wanted, race number one. He'll be hoping for a much happier race number two. The same can be said for several drivers. We did not get to see Arrive and Drive race and deliver at all in that one, albeit the two teammates stepping on each other's toes. And unfortunately, really it was Shahi's ahead, just not able to avoid the stage Nick Peterson. And well, now he'll be hoping this second one he can really end his season on a high, because the Arrive and Drive team, they're definitely one of those teams that have pushed above their weight all season long. But will they be able to do so for the final time? Well, here we go, ladies and gentlemen, because it's time to make our way to the grid for race 2 of 2, and with it, the final race of Season 17 of the League Zero Formula Series, presented by INCA Salsa on iRacing. And so, to the grid they go for the final time this season, and this is how they'll line up. We can see for the 20-lap feature is Antonio Bianchi, who takes the top 6 inverted pole position for INCA X51C, and he'll be joined on the front row of the grid by none other than Leo Domar. The rodent racing driver will have the pressure of Gareth McAllister, a season-best performance last time out, now starting third for INCA Chips, and joining him on that second row of the grid, it is going to be none other than Elliot Court. The DDK Racing driver then be followed up by Adam Merchant for Squid Gang Racing, and the winner of race number 1, Finney Fitzsimmons for MSR Purple, and right now that third row has two-time champions. Surely one of them is going to become a 3-time champion at the rate of knots they're pushing at. Jace Mayer starts 7th there, FMSR Purple ahead of Johnston Bra, but as the field almost is set, well, just behind, it is then none other than Felipe Ramos for Inca Queso, ahead of Joshua Cronin for Team Boats, and outside that top 10, starting in 11th place, it's going to be Elliot Rolls for DDK Racing, the last finish, of course, of race number 1 on the lead lap. Carlos Banas will join in there, starting 12th for Raccoon GP, ahead of his teammate James Turnbull. Misfortune struck them right at the end of race 1. Hopefully better fortune in this one. Robert Noble starts 14th for MSR Green, ahead of Shea Buffett. And DDK Jordan Driver, then 9, he's got the company of Sergey Proc starting 16th alongside. From row 8 to row 9, it's Fabian Sanchez for INCA X51C, ahead of Shahi Zaher for Arrive and Drive Racing. Westerman Marquez there, the third DDK Racing driver, starting in 19th, ahead of Nick Peterson for Arrive and Drive Racing, who completes top 20. Meanwhile, on the final row of the grid, it's Arturo Mayoga for INCA Chips, and none other than Matt Strong there for INCA Salsa Racing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. One last time. The grid is set. The lights are going on for the season finale race. And as all the revs rise here, it's firing lights. And it's lights down, away we go then for our final race of the season. They all get away as best as humanly possible. A couple of drives to the grass immediately there. Bit of an adventure for none other than Elliot Court, but he's able to survive it in the end. As they all come down, all big heavy moments on the brake, and there's contact between a couple of drives. Front wings gone, cars around as well. Oh my good lord, it's all in pieces. And in the end, a lot of incidents there early on. And indeed, we thought it was already over in terms of sprint race of safety cars, but it may not be. But we're still racing right now, at least by the looks of things. There's a battle on between Bianchi and Merchant. Merchant's had an absolute lightning start to this race. He roars his way side by side here with Antonio Bianchi, and going down towards turn number 4 right now. Was they make the way onto the brakes? It's going to be Merchant into the lead then. Bianchi losing out. Meanwhile, further back, we do see that Gareth McAllister side by side with none other than Jace Mayer. Finney Fitzsimmons has already found his way past, but the MSR Purple car can't find his way through. So drama at the back of the field, but meanwhile towards the front of the field, everything we can expect and more. And we'll get you an update with regards to what exactly happened in the replays of the race start in due order, ladies and gentlemen. But meanwhile, Esteban Marquez there, he started all the way down in 19th place. He's suddenly found his way all the way up into 7th. What a start from him. Head of Johnston Brass, and Marquez absolutely flying as he moves his way through the order. And I think he's capitalised all the chaos that's unfolded, and will very well done if so. But meanwhile, Sergey Proc here fighting with a very heavily wounded car. Robert Nobles who goes speeding all around. And for Robert Nobles right now, that is a car in absolute pieces. And well, he's just trying to get himself into the pit lane. But at the front of the field, Adam Merchant here trying to bolt away as quickly as he can. He wants to build as much of a gap as humanly possible and not find himself under any pressure if he can help it. Because right now, so long as he finishes ahead of Finney Fitzsimmons, he will be your champion for this season. And meanwhile, Antonio Bianchi keeping another Elliot Court behind as Bianchi on the overtake or the push to pass button there, and trying to make sure the Court doesn't get too close. Court on a charge then, in third currently Finney Fitzsimmons only 1.1 seconds behind, and then we do see Gareth McAllister and Jace Mayer in pursuit there, but it's already calming down inside the top 10, at least for now. But remember, there's a lot of laps in this race. This one is not over by any stretch of the imagination. Speed of things not over here. That's Elliot Rolls trying to go for a move on Carlos Balanas. Balanas goes defensive, as we can see that Arturo Mayorga on the outside line. Very late on the brakes there from the Raccoon GP driver. He gets it stopped. What a move there from Carlos Balanas. And in the end, Elliot Rolls right now goes inside to outside. He runs a bit too wide, and well, he's still going to take the place there. He uses all the runoff area that will count as an off track, but he will take the place for now. Albeit I think Arturo Mayorga would like that back if possible. He's not going to be able to get it into La Source. Esteban Marquez has towed to the pit main. Meanwhile, he's had a bit of an incident. We're not quite sure what's happened to him, but back to the front of the field we go on to lap number 2, and here we can see Adam Bircher right now not breaking away, as it's going to be Elliot Court looking up the inside. And well, does he get that move done? The answer is yes, he does. The Court makes well past Antonio Bianchi. Bianchi are just playing passive, I think, and not wanting to get too involved in the top 3 fight in the championship. He'd rather finish fourth, I suspect, to make sure he guarantees his spot inside the top 5 at the end of the season. Meanwhile, Philly Fitzsimmons still on a bit of a march, and his teammate Jace Mayer really acting as the rear gunner here, albeit runs very deep down for Rivage Bend, gets it together just about, but that's a mistake that could prove costly if he keeps doing it, particularly the amount of marbles he'll pick up on the outside left tyres. But we see Gareth McAllister here ahead of John Stumbrant and James Turnbull. They're all fanning and looking in towards Pullen Bend, but nobody quite able to make a move. And Shahi's ahead. Well, he's definitely survived the start of this race, so therefore he's now been able to enjoy himself. They're coming down the hill, the arrive and drive racing driver from Sri Lanka. Well, he finds himself in a 2x2. This is not a formation lap, we should point out to you. And well, that's going to be the attempt there from none other than John Stumbrant. He goes outside to inside. A lovely move of Gareth McAllister. And Stumbrant now up into 6th place. He's absolutely pushing this Stumbrant. We love to see it, given the fact he has proven to be one of those drivers, but as the season has gone on, he's got quicker and quicker. Shahi's there playing patience here as the deck trying to protect the tyres. Meanwhile, Gareth McAllister really struggled at this point in the race. I wonder if there's a little bit of damage on McAllister's car, because he does not look anywhere near as quick as before. Well, of course, the slipstream being a factor, but it just seems as though McAllister right now losing a lot of momentum as they make the way up towards the bus stop chicane, and there might be some story behind that. Because Zahair right now thinks about the move of Turnbull and then decides it's not worth it. And in the end, Turnbull goes very deep there, but Zahair too far back. Meanwhile, looking back to his teammate of Nick Peterson, well, he's missing the front wing. He's carried on at the moment at the very least, but he's on the back there of Sergei Proc, and I suspect he's just trying to survive what is this opening stint as long as he can. But in the end, the front wing's just too much to deal with, and he does make his way in towards the pit lane. That'll be repair work. He'll be able to get the wing replaced quite quickly. It only takes an extra 6 seconds on top of a normal pit stop time, but he'll now know he's most likely going to a 2-stop strategy, whereas everyone else will be trying to do the 1. Meanwhile, Adam Merchant, your leader, now has Elliot Court close. Here comes Court looking up the inside, in towards Lake Con. They go, too wide they enter, coming up through. Oh, there's contact, and that's going to be both of them together, the 2 big championship contenders. By touching it, Philly Fitzsimmons goes around the outside. That could be it. That could be all into the hands of Philly Fitzsimmons at this point. Adam Merchant's lost his rear wing. Elliot Court, meanwhile, well, he's still got his wings intact, but it's damaged that car. I think right now for Adam Merchant, this could all go round. It could go horribly wrong. And right now, no rear wing on the car. Still got the rear engine counting, but the car is twitching all over the place. And I think with that, he is going to have to come into the pit lane. He can't make it to the end of the lap. And for Adam Merchant, that's a tow to the pit. And with the repair work required, he's out of the race effective for Philly Fitzsimmons. Will the contact of Elliot Court, and now, well, all Fitzsimmons has to do is make sure he doesn't make a mistake. So long as he finishes ahead of Elliot Court, he will be your 3-time champion. And I can't believe it, ladies and gentlemen. It's happened, and it's happened on lap number 3. And when the Elliot Court and Merchant fighting side by side, we need to get a replay of that, and we need to understand what exactly has happened. We will. We promise you that there's plenty of replays we're queuing up, but right now, we need to look at a bit more action. That's the corridor on circuit, because we do see here a bit of battling going on. There's between Philippe Ramos and Elliot Rolls here, and Elliot Rolls right now trying to make his way forward. DDK, of course, wanting all the points, but with the things going wrong for Court, and I suspect there might be a post-race time penalty, depending on how the stewards deem that instant. Of course, we don't know exactly. We didn't really get to see it from the best angle. Well, Elliot Rolls right now making his way forward. He wants to make sure the team gets some points, so that way, well, he's got an opportunity here to be able to help the team assure themselves of a maiden crown. Remember, of course, it was 1-2 for the team in the Drivers' Championship last year. However, it was not what was a win in the Team Championship. That went the way of MSR Purple. But Antonio Bianchi now on the back here of, well, in fact, having the back of Finney Fitzsimmons to worry about, as Fitzsimmons now make his way on past. And at this point, well, these two very much clear. 5 seconds clear of Elliot Court. Bianchi tucks into the back there of the leading contender for the championship. And Bianchi here, will he flight it coming in towards Lake On? The answer is no, he's not quite close enough. Meanwhile, John Stumbrant, we look further back, there is Stumbrant ahead of Jace Mayer, and Mayer right now really coming along. MSR Purple absolutely galvanised here, but is it coming too late in the day? Is the revival form 1 round too late? Because right now they've got so many points to try and make up here, and well, they'll need a 1-2 really if they want to try and guarantee it, and DDK Racing will need to drop some more places by comparison. As you can see there, Shahi Zahair on the back of man, James Turnbull with him. But without further ado, we are now going to take a trip back in time, ladies and gentlemen, and take a look at what exactly happened at the start of the race and some of the other big incidents as well, starting with your race start. Now, this was the field as it got itself away, and that's all of our drivers did, all the field together there. Well, it's lights out and away they went. Now, what exactly happened down in towards the La Source hairpin? A bit of a slow start there for one of our drivers who didn't quite get the launch, and in the end, well, everyone was saved. Oh, big contact there to the rear of a car, I believe. Well, that was Fabian Sanchez making contact. Meanwhile, Carlos Balanos had to take evasive action after turning a car by looks of things, and, well, that all explains it. Can we get a little bit further down to the closer perspective? Yes, we can. So we made our way down towards turn number 1. Here we get the foreground camera. Onto the brakes they went. Fabian Sanchez into the back there of the MSR green machine, and Carlos Balanos on the outside. They're just trying to take evasive action. Elliot Rolls was turned around meantime. So whilst it all went a bit wrong for Robert Nobles, meanwhile it all went very backwards for Elliot Rolls rather quickly. This is what it looked like from Elliot Rolls' perspective on board, as he made his way. A good start there for the DDK Racing driver, already up a couple of places into that braking zone, and as he came on through here, he's going to get a knock, I suspect. He does. Rear right knocks him. I think that was the car there of what was none other than, well, I'm not 100% certain now, I'm not going to quote it, but somebody did make contact with him and sent him round. This is what it looked like from Carlos Balanos' perspective as he made his way down. He was on the outside, of course, taking evasive action. There you'll see Elliot Rolls, and in the end he had to really move over, so I believe it was a different car that made contact with Rolls, and Balanos being made to go all the way around the outside and finding cars left, right and centre. Joshua Cronin, meanwhile, he managed to try and avoid a lot of it as he came on down into that braking zone. He was right at the back here, and, well, definitely Fabian Sanchez going into the back of what was your machinery of none other than Robert Nobles, and, well, in the end, Joshua Cronin getting out of the way of everybody, doing a very good job there. Car round as well into the barrier. Well, that was Arturo Mayorga. I'm not 100% certain, but a car being turned around most certainly. But meanwhile, whilst all that happened, we then had this big moment for Esteban Marquez on lap number 2. This was Marquez coming down in towards La Source Bend as he broke his way in towards the corner. In the end, got the power down. The rear of the car twitched loose and then into the barrier. And unfortunately, with that impact, that would be a total bit straight away that car is not coming back. We then had this for Joshua Cronin on lap 2 as well. It went a bit backwards for him. Oh, that's, I believe, Lecom. The car's gone on the round. We only get a distant view of that, so Joshua Cronin having a bit of a mistake, but thankfully able to get it back on very gradually. And we had this for Elliot Court on lap number 3. So this was the battle between Elliot Court and Adam Merchant as they made the way in on the inside there. Merchant tried to hang it around, and oh, goodness me, that is going to be a very contentious incident between the two drivers there. And, well, as we get the on-board from Elliot Court's perspective on his roll bar, on the inside here, went for the move. You'll think right now, he's got the inside, he's on the outside next, took a bit of curb, and I think in the end, both drivers were going to converge there. I don't think the blame solely lies for Elliot Court. I think it is close to a racing instant away. They were both close, but in the end, wheels touched, and they both had racing room. And unfortunately, that's the thing with these Super Formula SO23 cars. When it's very close like that, it looks absolutely fantastic until it gets wrong. But from Adam Merchant's perspective, understandably right now, it's gone so wrong, and that could be what's costing the championship. And afterwards, well, this was the spin for Adam Merchant coming on down, when in fact just parking the car up, coming out of expend, knowing with the damage to the car he couldn't carry on, and that's why he had to tow to the pits, ladies and gentlemen. But without further ado, we make our way back to your live racing. And, well, big moments, no doubt about it, but right now we've still got big moments to come. We're sure of that as well, as your leader, Finley Fitzsimmons, after passing Antonio Bianchi, well, he's now bolting away here. Gap 2 seconds at this time, and Bianchi a bit further back with Elliot Court, meanwhile holding on to third, and the car that's definitely seen some damage, albeit, to be fair to him, he's only taken a small bit of damage to the front wheel. It's not as big as what we thought it was compared to what happened to Adam Merchant, and Elliot Court right now in the number 1, holding off James Turnbull, Johnston Martin Shaw, he's a hair, but definitely he has lost some pace compared to the cars behind, and therefore is managing a damaged car. And as we look back from the rear of his car, the DDK Racing driver here will know that it's really on corner entry the car's going to be hurting rather than on corner exit, where you're more leaning on the front downforce initially on corner entry, whereas you're leaning on the rear downforce more on exit to get the rear settled. But there's going to be a move. That's going to be James Turnbull trying to slipstream his way on past here, coming in towards Blanchimont Bend, and, well, in the end we use the side draft there to finalise the move, plus a bit of push to pass. And upwards he goes, so that moves him forward, but here comes the rest, as that's going to be Johnston Bra looking up the inside, not close enough to go for it, so therefore he's going to have to wait his turn, and rolling the way on through the corners. But things will stay as they are, beyond James Turnbull making his way up into third place. Bra and Zuhair are next. But getting ready for La Source. We can see in the rear of the picture, Jace Man, Elliot Rolls together as these two drivers come down into that braking zone. And, well, we have lost several drivers from the start of this race. We lost Matt Strong. He did not make his way to the grid, I do believe, in the 18 due to damage on the car. Needed Shave Buffett. And then we did lose as a result of that opening incident, of course. We'll hold the phone on that one because this could be side by side here between Rolls and Mayer. And in the end, Elliot Rolls goes around the outside. Jace Man decides not to fight it too hard. He would rather tuck into the toe here, heading down the Kemmel Straight and come back if he can. But meanwhile, Stunbra and Zuhair side by side here, as meanwhile, Elliot Court trying to find a move on what is Turnbull, can't quite find it, but Shahi's ahead does in the end go around the outside of John Stunbra. It looks like Stunbra might have been burning a slowdown penalty there for track limits. He was quite slow down the Kemmel Straight, and I think just lifting and coasting along. But what we were going to say with all the fighting kicked off there is that we have lost on the way as a result of the lap 1 incident. Leo Tomar, Fabian Sanchez, also none other, I do believe, Arturo Mayorga and Esteban Marquez. But meanwhile, we also have seen what was drama. In fact, Esteban Marquez we lost on lap number 2 for his spin at the Source corner. And we have lost Adam Merchant from this race as well. So therefore, some big losses. But as they all push on, these drivers right now 9. And there's still plenty of points out there. They've just got to keep their heads down and carry on as best as they can. Elliot Court here right now, with all the pressure on him. Well, I don't think he's going to be able to make any places in at this point in the race, and I suspect he's just trying to get himself as close as possible to midpoint. Going on lap 7 of 20, he could perhaps afford to pit at the end of this lap, albeit he would be loading up the second stint to really wear down his tyres. Therefore, Shahi's ahead is going to make his way on pass, push the pass button active, and will through the left-hand apology when he goes. A Court will tuck in behind here and try to siphon a little bit of slipstream back. Looks to the inside. Does he go for the move? The answer is no, not quite. And in the end, he stays out, albeit John Stabra on the inside now. Stabra trying to pick up the pieces that have been left behind by the DDK Racing driver. But DDK Racing, if things were to finish as they currently stand, they would be your team's champions, albeit by limited margin over MSR Purple. They would do enough with Rolls and Court both inside the top 10, albeit points awarded, of course, all the way down to 12th place. So Elliot Court right now, now he's still got some more work to do, but the number 1 driver here, really nice, he's battling against the elements on a damaged car. Well, we look back to Finley Fitzsimmons, and we can see here the number 16 driver still comfortably clear of Antonio Bianchi, and that gap improving by the best part of half a second a lap there as they come through. But back to Court versus Stunbra, and in the toe he's going to sweep his way around the outside of Stunbra, and then it rolls queuing up here. But Hair's got clear, and now Stunbra's really the last try to try and pass the wounded DDK Racing machine, and it rolls on the back of this, and I suspect DDK are trying to work together here to make their way on past Stunbra as we jump aboard with the machinery of Elliot Rolls, the number 5 driver here, and to buy this time in a car that, whilst it has had a couple of trips to the grass, they've been more evasive trips rather than ones where he's been sent out there, and therefore he's in a car that's definitely in good condition, albeit the tyres a little bit more worn than perhaps he would like them to be, but I suspect right now he'll be feeling very comfortable in this car, but the dirty air in front of him definitely will not be as comforting by comparison. All wins to right into left he comes to the Fandon chicane, and coming off and in towards Stavlo 1. A very good run through the corner there. He does seem quite comfortable now in these medium-slow speed corners with the dirty air, and I think Stunbra perhaps just struggled a little bit by comparison. A little bit now on the back stretch here. Double draft here for Rolls. Does he put the overtake button on? Yes, he does. Pulls the inside as they get ready for Blanchimont Bend. It's going to be too wide here, and Wolf Elliot Rolls. Surely he's going to get this move done. A full attack in towards the corner. It takes the 2 places there. In the end, Elliot Court does back off a little bit to give his teammate the place up, and also make sure, therefore, that John Stunbra can't come back at him in towards the next braking zone. So a lovely bit of tactical work there for DDK, and it works out because Elliot Court immediately ducks into the pit lane there, gives up the positions, but his job is done. He will go on to a 12-lap stint on his second set of tyres to complete the racing, and well, that's what it was all about, giving his teammate the opportunity to come on through. But meanwhile, further back, Carlos Balanos and Gareth McAllister, they're looking to fight, albeit it will be Balanos who's got ahead of McAllister at the end of that lap, and now McAllister comes into the pit lane here, and by looks like perhaps nursing a little bit of damage on the car, and therefore wanting to just end that stint where possible in order to get a much fresher car and therefore go on the attack. But of course, it will be quick repair work. There won't be any fast repairs, so therefore if there's anything sizably damaged, it'll be down to the driver to decide does he continue with a damaged car or not. But meanwhile, as Vinny Fitzsimmons carries on here, well, he's in the clear for now. Indeed, it's only what is another 11 laps after this one between him and a 3rd championship crown. But Antonio Bianchi, meanwhile, currently running in second here. Well, this would be his best result of the season if he was able to bring this home. And well, having started in 3rd place, a full place in race number 1. Well, right now, definitely it would be his best round overall the season as well. So it really would be a turning point in his championship right at the end and see him end it on the high. As we do see there, Sergei Prok going around the outside of Joshua Cronin. These two swapping place around. I believe that Joshua Cronin has recently come out the pit lane as well, albeit Sergei Prok has not been into the pits as of yet, so that might help explain the swap around between the two drivers. Well, we've got a few replays to come with some big moments, and well, we take a look back in time, ladies and gentlemen, to see what these big moments included. One of them, of course, none other than a bit of difficulty for Joshua Cronin on lap number 6. And these replays, of course, courtesy of Arturo Mioga. It's brilliant software that he's provided for these broadcasts. And as Cronin made his way down in towards the bus stop chicane, once the brakes down, the car completely locking up on the rear and unlocking very quickly. And the front wheels, meanwhile, still trying to go forward as the rear tried to come round on him. We then had this for Robert Nobles towards the end of his 6th lap of racing. This was the MSR green driver coming through the bus stop chicane, took turn 18 fine, went a bit deep at 19, got the power down, and in the car, the fishtail on the rear, oh, and into the barrier there, and that would be a toe to the pits immediately with that damage. And then we did have this only moments later. This was the wonderful move by Elliot Rolls on both Johnston Bright and Elliot Court, and this was very tactical here from Elliot Rolls. We jumped aboard the cockpit view. And as you can see, in the end, overtake button on to the inside there, and his teammate keeping the door open and essentially just lifted off a tiny bit, and then it rolls in, able to chop his way to the inside and get that move done. A very smart move between them. And then we just had this move of Carlos Balanas on Gareth McAllister. This was coming all the way out towards Blanchimont Bend. These two, of course, fighting for position, and McAllister getting ready to come into the pit lane, essentially. Overtake button on there, and in the end, Balanos up the inside. Got it done, but of course, using a bit of his push to pass, and knowing at some point he's going to lose that time back. Sergei Prok, meanwhile, after the pit stops, made his way on past a return into the race. Joshua Cronin, who was yet to pit, was Sergei Prok, so therefore he still got a pit stop on his way, but it was too wide through them, coming up the hill and went around the outside there for Rouge Radion. That's not common, but I think Cronin there still trying to get his tyres turned on, so he didn't want to fight that as hard. But back to your live racing we go, ladies and gentlemen. And as we do, still more to come, no doubt about it. But what exactly now is to come for these drivers? Well, we do see Finley Fitzsimmons here still on a mission to go forward, albeit time is of the essence here as he now puts together another strong lap, a 52.67. Meanwhile, Antonio Bianchi 7 seconds back. What does his lap look like? It's a 53.103. So the net delta is around 4 to 5 tenths a lap between the two, and Finley Fitzsimmons in his element right now. And knowing all he's got to do is stay out of trouble. But Finley Fitzsimmons, of course, you would argue that perhaps this is the round which really does show, after all the bad luck he's had for the last 4 rounds of the championship, that bad luck had to end at some point and it had to strike somebody else. Of course, they do say with regards to every championship, like every success in life, there is a lot of commitment, there's a lot of practice, there's a lot of dedication and skill, but there is always a percentage of luck. And well, definitely this season swung very heavily from the midway point into the bad luck territory for Finley Fitzsimmons. And not to be unfair to Adam Merchant, whose car's still in the pit lane, being looked at right now, the team are trying to get it repaired, but I don't think they are going to be able to get it repaired in time. Well, you'd say that whilst he was very quick, he also did have some fortune versus Fitzsimmons in terms of how the pendulum has swung so much. Unfortunately, the pendulum now has swung so aggressively as a result of the contact between Merchant and Court. They has seen Fitzsimmons now really with an open goal opportunity to take what will be that championship crown. But you can't put anything past all 3 of our championship contenders. They've all been stars in their own right, but unfortunately only one of them can take it in the very end. And here we do see, meanwhile, James Turnbull, Shahid Zayn and Elliot Rolls together. James Turnbull holding on to 3rd place as he heads onwards, but knowing, of course, that Elliot Court has pitted, and therefore he's going to try and catch up to these guys, albeit with a much longer second stint compared to his first. But we are into the second half of this race now, and pit stops definitely will be the theme soon, if they're not already, for all these drivers. And well, as they do cover through Stavlo 1 into Stavlo 2, a lot of gravel there, and that is Shahid Zayr's tyres wearing down now as he runs out wide, and then it rolls at this point. We think to himself that he can get involved here as well as ahead. Decides to use the push to pass there to keep himself safe. And we run on board with Elliot Rolls, who definitely not using the push to pass, but he's got all the momentum here and the slipstream. And here he goes, looking to the outside. On the brakes he is, and very hard onto the brakes there. And he'll lunge around the outside, gets it stopped absolutely on the dime. So here carries on, he does not carry to the pits. They go on to lap number 12, and now will Shahid Zahir be able to come back, and he immediately follows Rolls down towards La Source, literally his wheel tracked. He wants that place back, no doubt about it, and we'll smart driving from both here, but it does seem as though for all the track position that Elliott Rolls has gained, he's now going to have the problem, which is he's going to need to deal with that upcoming move, which it could happen at any time here as they make the way up the long rise. But what's it going to be here as they come over the crest? And the answer is going to be still as they were, at least for now. But we can see there's a hair getting closer and closer. Does he go for the move here? He does, but meanwhile it's going to be Rolls defending. So Hair's pinched the inside. Rolls opens up the door at the last possible moment, and in the end it is going to be Elliott Rolls who holds on there. So Shahi's Hair decided to push as hard as he possibly could, but it did not work out. So Rolls holds on to that 4th place for now, but Shahi's Hair definitely coming back there, been a bit venomous and looking to bite. Meanwhile, John Stonbra in 6th place. Right now, the Golf Livery Machine, the number 70, yet to pit. He's fallen away from this group in recent laps. His lap times have not been as impressive as they have been previously, but to be fair to him, right now, I think he's got his head down. It's just trying to push on here as he comes down in towards Pull&Bender turns 10 and 11. The gap between him and Elliott Court, the man who is the first of those who have stopped, is 21 seconds. Here is Elliott Court, and the end-to-end pit time of quite an extensive one, even though we are just running the Grand Prix pit lane, or now the F1 pit lane, whereas of course in World Endurance Championship you would see the entirety of both the old and the more modern pit lane being used together to accommodate all the cars and teams. But we do have that shorter pit lane and therefore nowhere near as aggressively long, but we do still see drivers lose approximately about 35 seconds in the pit lane end to end, and therefore right now picking the right time to pit can be just as valuable as being the quickest on circuit. But as Felipe Ramos battles with Gareth McAllister here, and these two drivers have had very different stories. McAllister has pitted, Ramos has yet to pit as we understand it. Here comes a potential move, and McAllister will be up the inside there before he gets to the apex of Pull&Bend. James Turnbull, meanwhile, into the pit lane, so he's given up 3rd place now to Elliott Rolls, albeit that is, of course, as part of the strategy. Rolls and Zahair have yet to pit. They carry on for at least another lap. They're on to lap 13. How long can they go? Well, we've not had a safety car in this race, so therefore, whilst we do have the prospect of what is only 22 minutes left on the clock, we're keeping an eye on the 45-minute timer for this race as well, as though it's not on screen. We are going to come to finish all 20 laps here, but it does seem as though quite a few drivers right now wanting to really extend that first stint. But here comes the Hair looking for another move, and Rolls ducks to the inside, ducks to the outside there to cover it off right at the last moment. Shahi's Hair meanwhile had to duck back to the inside. Indeed, these two getting very firm with each other right now, and I'm getting flashbacks here to the likes of what be Nigel Mansell versus Ayrton Senna all those years ago, with the two fighting as hard as they are, but they're fighting fair, and we absolutely love it. But of course, remember, they are fighting and swapping lanes at speeds in excess of 185 miles an hour, so therefore the reaction times of these drivers have got to be absolutely clinical. They cannot afford even a single error. But around the way down the hills, the Hair will naturally fall back to a degree before he goes back on the attack in short order. And once he does so, we have had a tow to the pits. Meanwhile, for Joshua Cronin, something's got very wrong for him. He has added himself to the list of retirements in this race now. We're down to 13 runners remaining. Well, speaking of our remaining runners further down the order, well, here's Gareth McAllister trying to keep Felipe Ramos behind him. Ramos right now tucking into the toe and decides not to fight for the position. I think respecting the fact that right now he's realised he is a strategy down on what's Ramos, on Get McAllister, I should say, and therefore with a pit stop still to come, therefore it may not be a good idea to start fighting a man who's already pitted. But speaking of pitting, Finley Fitzsimmons in for the lead of the race, and Tony Bianchi as well. The top two are in. Surely that means that Elliott Rolls will be coming in shortly. Yes, they couldn't go any further then than 13 laps. That was the limit they could go to. And now the question is, where is James Turnbull? Will he be able to come out in 3rd place, or will Rolls be able to take it? As Bianchi and Fitzsimmons will surely be clear with their pit stops, and Finley Fitzsimmons has already been serviced. There he goes. And for Finley Fitzsimmons now, it is 7 laps between him and a 3-time champion status. As Antonio Bianchi leaves the pit lane, Elliott Rolls meanwhile is just leaving now. Where is Turnbull? Here he comes. It's going to be close between these drivers. He makes way onwards up towards La Source, but I think Rolls might have it here, and in fact Elliott Rolls will be clear of Turnbull. And whilst James Turnbull was the first to pit, the undercut strategy has not worked. And we can see there Shahi Zahair has in fact leapt ahead as well. Elliott Court's right behind. And Court right now, of course, having gone for the undercut strategy, pitting on lap number 8. It does mean that the number 1 driver here has got a lot of work to do still on tyres that will be diminished in life by the time he gets to around laps 17 and 18, where normally you would expect even tyre wear. Perhaps you split the race in 2. By the fact he's gone for an asymmetric, aggressive strategy, it means now that he's going to be battling uphill as Elliott Rolls and Shahi Zahair. They're going to have some very fresh tyres here for the fight for the final podium spot. Albeit Zahair here on the attack. coming down the hill in towards a large corner, but it really will be the fight for the final podium spot here. Unless Antonio Bianchi or Finley Fitzsimmons, either one of them has a major incident of proportions, well, it does mean right now they should be clear, and it's all going to come down to these two for the final podium spot, and whether their fighting brings Turnbull and Court back into the mixture. As Felipe Ramos carries on here, following Gareth McAllister. In fact, as we double-check our records, we believe that Ramos may have actually pitted behind a replay, so therefore it does actually mean that he is battling with McAllister for 10th place. Points awarded down to 12th, of course. Carlos Balanos, the last driver in the points-paying positions at the moment, albeit with the pace that he's demonstrating, I don't think he's going to be able to catch up to Ramos and McAllister as of this time. He is lapping on average around about 9/10 lap slower by comparison, so this might be a race whereby he just makes sure that Nick Peterson does not catch up, and Nick Peterson right now looking for a way back in. You can see in there in the rear of the picture, he's the last of your running drivers. But with all the pit stops mostly done, if not all done right now, we've got racing on the road to contend with, and we look back from the rear of James Turnbull's Raccoon GP machine as he tries to hold into 5th place here versus Elliott Court for the remaining 6 laps. And coming out to the bus stop chicane here, we can see Elliott Court, more aggressive driver, but a much quicker driver as a result of his aggression. James Turnbull here for Raccoon GP hasn't been as quick as Elliott Court over the course of the season. And well, for Turnbull right now, if he can hold this man behind him at bay for the remainder of the race, that would feel very special for him. And the Raccoon special right now roaring its way onwards, but Court here in the draft right now coming towards Rouge and Radion, and that's where you want to be up the hill. You want to be the number 2 car here because you pick up so much speed as they come over the hill, and Turnbull puts it in the middle of the road, but this might be battling upstream here because here comes Elliott Court on the inside. Push to pass button's active for both drivers or not? No, in fact, no overtake button being used by either driver here, so therefore they're going to swap the places around. I think Elliott Court right now, knowing he could get it in the draft, and James Turnbull thinking, I'll get back at him later when I actually need to use the overtake button, not immediately there, because I'd just be fighting against the inevitable. So I think some smart driving from James Turnbull. The only other thing, of course, is does he think that Elliott Court can bring him up to Shahi Zahair and Elliott Rolls? And if so, there they all are in a single picture shot. That gives you an idea of where all these drivers are together. That could be an idea here, as meanwhile Rolls runs very wide out of Pearl and Bend. He'll get away with it this time. However, he keeps doing it, of course. He will be under investigation for exploited track limits. But he does not right now. Seems to capitalise too much. And there will be some marbles on the tyres, and that always does hurt trying to burn those marbles off for the next half a lap or so. But here's your leader, Finley Fitzsimmons, and just an update in terms of the championships. If things were to finish as they currently stand, Finley Fitzsimmons would be a 3-time champion, and meanwhile Elliott Court would be bringing on home what would be the runner-up spot with the retirement from the race of Adam Merchant. But understandably, there could be a word to the stewards between Merchant and Court about their contact at turn 4, 5 and 6. And meanwhile, in what will be the battle for the team championship crown, it would be DDK Racing team who would bring on home ahead of MSR Purple, albeit understandably you would imagine the gap between the two teams will have condensed down somewhat, but how much would it condense down by? Well, not enough there to keep it too close, to be fair. DDK Racing would be on course for what would be their maiden championship crown. But as Elliott Court puts a new fastest lap together there with a 52.264 in this second stint of the race. Right now the number 1 driver here definitely pushing on, thirsty for some bigger points. But of course, where it's going to be the target. Is it going to be Shahi Zahair, given the fact that he was 5/10 fast that previous lap? Can he close that gap down enough? The gap is 2.4 seconds. And he's got this lap plus another 4 to go. Well, Tyre Life is definitely starting to pinch. At some point within the next couple of laps, we will see his pace most likely start to dip a little bit. But given the fact that Court has really been the 3rd fastest driver this season, when you compare him to Finley Fitzsimmons and Adam Merchant, and when we say 3rd fastest, that's not derogatory. He's normally been slower by an average around 2/10 a lap in terms of 1 lap pace. In race pace, it's been a bit tighter. Well, right now you can understand the number 1 driver here should be able to close the gap to the top 3. But as he runs a bit wider, can expend using all his instant points up, but he won't have too many left given the contact he had earlier on. Well, it's now all about here how far does he dare push the car. As a change of position here, that is going to be Gareth McAllister getting ahead of Sergei Proc, who's missing the rear of his car there. Oh, goes wide at Lecom, rejoins as Felipe Ramos moving up into 10th place, but Sergei Proc might be finding himself into the pit lane soon, and what exactly has happened to him? Here's a replay, ladies and gentlemen. So this was Sergei Proc making his way down towards the bus stop chicane, coming in towards 19, and well, got that nailed on through 20, however, got the power down, the rear of the car let go, span on the round and into the barrier there, and well, that is much like we've seen for several drivers today, but unfortunately, he could not find his way back into the pit lane because he would have had to have driven backwards, and that would not have been illegal, so therefore he's had to carry on, and he's trying to make it to the pits at the end of the lap. However, the car definitely struggling, no doubt about that, as it then went a bit wrong for him later on at Lecom, therefore having to give the place up up to Gareth McAllister, but the aero washed out off the back of the INCA Salsa racing car, upsetting the front end through the chicane, and the rear of the car sliding loose there with no rearing. Understandable, he's got no downforce over the rear, and indeed the faster that car goes, the less steady it becomes. Well, back to your live racing we go. And well, as we do so, we do look to Carlos Balanas, and right now Nick Peterson close behind him. Peterson looking for the move here. This is going to be for 11th place. Peterson goes around the outside, gets that done. So Peterson's still got some life in him yet. Now it's going to be an extra point now. We're picking up 2 instead of 1 point for finish in 11th. Meanwhile, Carlos Balanas will go down to a single point being achieved, given the revising of the points format for the feature race at the start of this season. But meanwhile, Finley Fitzsimmons, 3.5 laps now between him and Destiny, it would seem. Antonio Bianchi, 6.1 seconds behind, not able to match him. And Elliott Rolls, where he still does have the question, can he hold on to third place? Shahi Zahair inching closer. Elliott Court also inching closer. And Rolls right now trying to do what he does best, of course, in the days where he starts from the back of the field or has the pit lane start, which is race number 1 is all about making up ground, and race number 2 is all about finishing on that podium or as close as possible to it. And he's really made a record out of that. You just need to look back to Interlagos for it. But as he comes down through Stavler 1 in towards 2, Shahi Zahair's not out of this yet, and Johnston Bra has Jason Mayer for close company. And Mayer's still on a mission here as they roll the way through the Fangis chicane. Right into left here, and right now we look back from the rear of Stumbra's car, and the Porsche-sponsored privateer from the number 70. Well, if he can hold on, it'd be a huge result for him, and indeed he'd be very pleased with the points he picks up. Jace Mann, meanwhile, knowing that he needs every point he can if he wants to try and help MSR Purple dethrone DDK Racing. But as we said moments ago, right now, it's looking quite comfortable for DDK Racing in the team's championship. Here they go then in towards Blanchimont Bend, through a vast left-hander, and getting closer and closer is Jace Mayer. Stumbran right now, full attack here, under braking, they both go, and in the end it's going to be too wide on entry, around the outside to the inside. Mayer tries. Is he going to be able to get it done? The answer is yes. Jace Mayer moves up into 7th place there. Smooth move, but now here comes Stumbran back at him, a little bit of wobble on the exits and power oversteer. It's just going to give what is Stumbran the confidence there to attack up the inside in towards the source, and well, it's going to swap the place around there. John Stumbran gets it back, but now Mayer, of course, does have the draft going up the hill, but will he use the push to pass button here, or will he just do things of his own volition? And I think right now he's going to save the overtake button here and use the slipstream to his advantage. So on the rise they go, and as they power the way onwards, well, he gets closer and closer at this point. Gap now down to 2 attempts here, but as he builds up the overspeed down the Kemmel Straight, he's going to be pushing on. Push the pass button now goes on. He wants to max out his top speed and make sure he holds it as they come in towards that braking zone. Stumbrar doing the same here. But in the end, Jace Mayer sweeps around the outside. Lovely counter-attack there for Jace Mayer. Takes 7th place over Stumbrar, but that fight may not be over just yet. We're going to keep an eagle eye on it. But meanwhile, back to the leader. Finley Fitzsimmons, as his teammate, makes progress making places. Well, Finley Fitzsimmons progresses to the finish. And Tony Bianchi a bit further back. 6.5 seconds the gap. Still, the INCA X51C driver may go without a win this season, but he's definitely picking up a few podiums. He'll be pleased as punch for that in the number 17. And right now, the INCA X51C team, well, with the results they're bringing to the table here, they will be taking that 3rd place back off of Squid Gang Racing. It will be an upset for Squid Gang Racing, who with the massive solo effort for the most part from Adam Merchant will fall foul of the top 3 right at the very end, given the way this race has gone. And Antonio Bianchi doing the heavy lifting in this one to really bring home the points that's going to seal the deal for the team. So he'll be absolutely ecstatic about that. But to that timeline he goes. 2 laps remain in this one, and if you're wondering who currently holds the fastest lap in this race, as we do just double check ourselves, well, the fastest lap currently in the very capable hands of none other than, I do believe, what is Elliott Court at this time. And he's gone quite quick out there, Elliott Court, but he's still got more to go, and in fact here he does improves the fastest lap again now to a 51.962. So Elliott Court still trying to chase down some extra bonus points here, but Elliott Rolls meanwhile, well, he might have something to say about that. He normally does try and sneak in the fastest lap of the race right at the very end. They all do, to be fair. All these drivers are absolutely cheeky with it, and understandable. If they can take a bonus point, they will take one. But down the Kemmel Straight and going. You see Shahi's ahead. They're trying to stay in the toe, but the gap is growing between the two. In their contact straight. Previously, it'd be about 3 attempts there into the brains over Lacom. That time, it was 5.5 attempts. So Rolls right now really pushing onwards as Elliott Court. Well, he's still got tyre life left in the car, no doubt about it. How much he got left, that is the question. It does seem as though for Elliott Court right now, everything is almost there to what is a chance at what is 4th place at least, if not getting onto that podium. But the challenge he's got is as he moves closer and closer to the cars in front, he now starts to hit the wall of dirty air. And, well, that means that for him, he's now got to try and get past a double-barrel dirty air of Zahair and his own teammate of Rolls. That is not going to help him whatsoever. But coming through the Fantasy Chicane, well, that's where you'll feel it most pronounced there, and also through Uruch and Radion. And these lower speed corners, not as much, as the sun definitely starts to set in the background here at Spa-Francorchamps. And well, for these drivers, our circuit map, unfortunately, definitely has seemed to have glitched, and so has our overlay, ladies and gentlemen. Well, as we do see our driver make his way on through, we are just going to refresh the overlay there if we can, and it does seem as though it's not working at this time. So what we will do, as our leader goes on to the final lap, we are just going to try and do some technical wizardry in the background, and hopefully we'll get our overlay back. But if not, we do apologise for that. This does happen every so often, and well, we might be seeing Finney Fitzsimmons right now come through with just a clear screen all the way to the finish line. But there he goes, onwards, ladies and gentlemen. One more lap between himself and what will be victory here. And whilst the overlay has disappeared, we're not going to lose sight of this race all the way to the very end. And if we can't do it with an overlay, we'll do it without one. As Shahi Zahir right now has Elliott caught right behind him here as they make the way up the rise. It's looking close between these drivers. He's trying to hold on just that little bit longer, but powering the way on the rise. Well, here comes the move then. Will Zahir be able to hold on, because Court's going to try and go round the outside? Is he going to be able to get it done? And the answer is going to be not quite at night. It's too wide on entry. Yes, he will be able to get it done. Elliott Court sweeps on through, and Zahir will drop back there into what will be none other than 5th place. But can he come back here in the run down the hill in towards the next braking zone? The answer is going to be no. He is going to have to wait his turn. It's not going to come forward for him. So time is of the essence there, but it doesn't work out, as meanwhile drivers continue the way on through, and will absolutely on a mission right now is this man of Finney Fitzsimmons. There's only 3 corners between him and victory. He's almost there to becoming a 3-time champion. Not long left in the tank. He's just trying to make sure that everything comes together now whilst he can. And well, as he makes his way up through Blanchimon, it has been a season where he started off so strong, but things gradually went wrong, and he's had to turn things around. He's had to turn the frown upside down into a smile, and in the end, well, this season finale, all the bad luck that struck him has got away. It's been good luck, an outright pace day, and Finney Fitzsimmons will move himself to become a 3-time champion with victory here at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps in the season finale feature race. He takes that win and now chases after Jaden Calloway, the 4-time champion, and the 5-time champion of Raymond Ray Aguilar. And meanwhile, Antonio Bianchi comes home in 2nd place there, ahead of Elliott Rolls, who brings on home the final spot of the podium. And we've been a 3rd, and also, hold up a second, there's a change there, or is it? No, it is a 3rd for Elliott Rolls and a 4th for Elliott Court. It will mean that DDK Racing become your provisional teams champions. They've done it. They become your maiden teams champions ahead of Shahi Zahir, who takes 5th for Arrive and Drive Racing. And well, we do see there a big hello for Sergei Proc to the side of Shahi Zahir cars. James Turnbull finished in 6th. Jace Mannion 7th for MSR Purple, who with his teammate Finney Fitzsimmons, it's not enough in the end. And then we will see Johnston Brow coming home in 8th place there on camera, ahead of Gareth McAllister, who will come home in 9th. Meanwhile, just behind, we've got a battle here for the final spot inside the top 10. That's Nick Peterson trying to go around the outside there. Felipe Ramos, he's going to do it. It's Nick Peterson. He'll take that 10th place just at the very end. A lovely move there to complete his season. He comes home 10th. Felipe Ramos takes 11th place at line, and it'll be Carlos Balinas who comes on home in 12th place right at the finish. And he will be your last lead lap finisher, with Sergei Proc finishing a lap down in 13th. Goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, what a conclusion to the race. And well, as we do get our time tower back, thankfully it decides to appear right at the last moment. Well, Finney Fitzsimmons, he's been celebrated so much that he's taken the car to pieces. Well, I think right now he wants to see the end of that car for this season. What a conclusion, no doubt about it. And even technical issues could not stop us seeing our drivers through to the very finish. And well, for Finney Fitzsimmons, he moves ahead of Russell Soto and Adam Merchant to become a 3-time champion. Sadly for Elliott Court, it's still a 1-time champion status for him, and for Adam Merchant, he will stay on 2. But with that, let's take a look at those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. And as we can see in the end, an incredible race brought to a close by none other than Finney Fitzsimmons for MSR Purple, your winner in the end by 8.1 seconds over Antonio Bianchi in the INCA X51C driver. With that result, what it does mean is that INCA X51C will take 3rd in the team's championship, and for Antonio Bianchi, it will be an 8th place in the championship, just ahead of Jace Mayer, all said and done. The Canadian driver followed up by Elliot Rolls there for DDK Racing, completing the podium, and he will be proud of that, given the fact that he's had to come all the way from the back of the field at the start of today with that qualifying ban, and just ahead of Elliot Court there, who'll be happy that the team have made it the Team's Championship, but of course a little cloud will hang over his head given the contact of Adam Merchant, and what a contentious moment it was between the two as they battled for the lead of the race. Still, what's happened, and he's got to think that as well, and he will do so, having squeezed his way ahead of Shahi Zaher on the final lap. And the Arrive and Drive Racing Drive just missed it out there. But from 5th place, James Turnbull in 6th for Raccoon GP ahead of Jace Mayer, who took home 7th place there. And it was Johnston Bra, Gareth McAllister and Nick Peterson, the privateer ahead of the INCA Chips and Arrive and Drive Racing Drives, who completed that top 10. But what a battle it was for Gareth McAllister today. The INCA Chips driver definitely getting right in the thick of the fighting. But unfortunately for him, after a brilliant top 5 finish in race number 1, could not find a way to follow it up in race number 2, where Nick Peterson, meanwhile, came all the way through from 20th to 10th, making that move for 10th place on Felipe Ramos on the final lap in the final 2 corners. Felipe Ramos then taking 11th best the rest for Inca Queso ahead of Carlos Balanas, who was 5 seconds behind for Raccoon GP, and there was a lap down there to your final finish of the race of Sergei Perok. Unfortunately, we did see quite the list of retirements in this one, including Joshua Cronin, Robert Nobles, Arturo Mayorga, and Adam Merchant. The biggest name, of course, there being Merchant involved in that incident, which took him out of championship contention. And then we also did see an incident on lap number 2 for Esteban Marquez, as we did see incidents for Fabian Sanchez and Leo Del Mar early on. And of course, we did have the incident through turn number 1, Shea Bruffett and Matt Strong in the end having a dismal start to their race. In fact, they didn't even get to go green flag racing, whereas we lost Sanchez and Del Mar right at the start as a result of the La Source incident. For goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, what a conclusion. You could not make it up. And even so much drama, in fact, that it took out our overlay on the final 2 laps. We do apologise about that, but hopefully we've made amends. And well, as we get ready to wrap up, of course, it's appropriate that we show you the championship standings then provisionally after 10 what was not 10 rounds of racing, my apologies, 9 rounds of racing. Let's do the mathematics correct, and here we are. And as we can see in the end, after what has been 9 rounds, there is your confirmation. Finley Fitzsimmons will be your 3-time champion for MSR Purple on 200 points. He takes the top spot, 18 clear of Adam Merchant, and Elliot Court, meanwhile, have to settle for 3rd place at a point further behind. The DDK Racing Drive just heard his teammate of Elliot Rolls there, who moves to 4th right at the finish, getting ahead of Fabian Sanchez, and Shahi Zaher finishing 6th there, 7 points clear of Leo Del Mar, and only 9 adrift of Fabian Sanchez. A good season for him then, as it was for Leo Del Mar, and Antonio Bianchi there with last gasp with a double podium to wrap up the day. Will definitely moon his way forward there, and what a result from him to bring himself all the way through. In fact, not a double podium, given the fact he finished 6th in race number 1. I should correct myself mentally there, but that 2nd place plus the 6th place in race 1, propelling him into 8th ahead of Jace Mayer. Craig Brick took 10th place, not on the grid for this round, unfortunately, so therefore he ended the season on 69 points, but looking nice there. Had Nick Peterson, who was best the rest of the 11th, and we did see James Turnbull with quite the spectacular day today. Bringing on home was the 6th place in the 2nd race, and went moving into 12th place, just ahead of Gareth McAllister, who moved up 3 places as well with his season best performance, and then Jaden Callaway and Nicholas Asidro completed the top 15. Outside the top 15, and Sergei Perok there falling into 16th right at the end, but ahead of Felipe Ramos, who gained a couple of points, and therefore finishing ahead of John Stunbra based on result countback, it would seem. Stunbra taking 17th, having also gained some critical points, and Demont Dotson and Robert Nobles completing your top 20. Ransom Nobles 21st, joint with Austin Thomas, and then we did see Jack Mundy in 23rd ahead of Xavier Zainav, and it was Joshua Cronin, Arturo Mayorga, Francisco Sosa, and Ryan Thibault completing those with at least 0 points, if not more. Sadly, minus points there for Shade Bruffett, as it was for Cameron Nick. Shea Bruffett, I do believe, picking up a post-race penalty for an instant in this one. So therefore, these actually may be the final standings results, to be fair. And then we do see outside the top 30 there on negative points as well. Carlos Balanas, Karen Sweat, Aaron Gersler, Esteban Marquez, Matt Strong, and Ricardo Espino. As for the Team's Championship, ladies and gentlemen, well, here is your crowning. It is DDK Racing, your champions, maiden Team's champions ahead of MSR Purple, and MSR Purple unable to defend their crown, and they will need to look to next season out if they want to take it back. INCA X51C bringing on home In third place, they're just ahead of Squid Gang Racing and owing it as much to the hard efforts of their team's drivers as was a bit of fortune with Adam Merchant's dismal demise today. And Arrive and Drive Racing in fifth place, well, cementing their spot inside the top 5, the best part of 44 points clear of Rodent Racing. It was INCA Salsa Racing that finished ahead of Raccoon GP, with INCA Chips and MSR Green completing the top 10, and in 11th, Formula American Racing Team, moving the way upwards with DDK XTH Jordan picking up some significant penalty points and all the teams behind them being promoted. Team Boats then moving to 11th place jointly with Formula American Racing Team, and Inca Questa taking 13th. DDK XTH Sean dropped to 14th then, and last but not least, in 15th, Inca Salsa Verde. And that's how the team championship stood after 9 rounds. So with that, congratulations to our champions. Of course, in the Drivers' Championship, a huge congratulations to Finley Fitzsimmons becoming a 3-time champion, just ahead of Adam Merchant and none other than Elliot Court. And in the Team Championship, a huge congratulations to DDK Racing for taking their maiden title ahead of the Season 16 champions of MSR Purple and Inca X51C round off the top 3. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it does mean it is now time for us to wrap up. Well, what an entertaining 200th Grand Prix and conclusion to Season 17 of the League Zero Formula Series presented by INCA Salsa. And if you have enjoyed watching today, indeed, thank you for tuning in. And if you're sat there right now wanting to know more about the League Zero Formula Series, and indeed how you can get on the grid for the upcoming season, more of that we'll tell you about very shortly, well, the best thing to do is go to our official website at www.leaguezero.net. That website on the screen now, indeed, the home of all things League Zero, the premier open-wheel racing series. And, well, if you want to get onto the grid or just know more about the series or about the history of it and previous champions, all of that is on the website, an easier to navigate website. You could not have an easier place to navigate. Some would say it is the Wikipedia of our series. But, of course, if you don't want to go to our website or you just want to be there as briefly as possible, join our Discord right in the centre of the screen there, the beating heart of the community. And if you do so, you can get in touch with the admins, the staff members and the other drivers, and you can be on the grid. And whether you're a rookie to Super Formula cars all the way through to an esports professional, we would love to see you go racing with us. But with that as well, we do want to come back and say a big thank you to our title sponsor for this season. And that is, of course, none other than INCA Salsa. And if you are a fan of salsa and are looking to taste the very best, then look no further than INCA Salsa. Containing only the freshest ingredients, no gluten and no added sugar, just like the finest authentic salsa should, once you've had a taste of the incredible family recipe salsa from Julio Espino, you will never want to taste any of the rest. To put yourself in pole position to enjoy the best salsa you ever have, do head to INCA Salsa's official website at shop-inca-salsa.myshopify.com today. But with that, we'd also like to say a thank you to our other series sponsors, who do include, of course, MSR Performance Engineering and the Team Goon Squad. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, well, that is the curtain brought down on Season 17. What a season it has been. What a way to complete our twice centenary of racing. And what is coming up next, I hear you ask? Well, we will be back for Season 18 of the Formula Series, starting on Thursday, the 19th of March, 2026. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, save the date in your diaries. We will be back once again for another absolutely brilliant season of racing action. Indeed, we'll just keep an eye on the iRacing officials, so we cannot confirm the schedule right now in terms of what circuits we'll be going to. But if it's any like this season's calendar, it is going to be an absolute banger, and you'll be wanting to be on the grid there from lights out to checker flag in Season 18. But with that, that's all we've got time for today, and we do need to give a huge congratulations to our champions and all the drivers who have been on the grid, where it's been for the whole season or just for a couple of rounds. They have made the season what it is and made it such a spectacle and a special season to cover. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, we have been the League Zero Formula Series. This has been Season 17 that we're bringing the curtain down, and I have been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh. You've been tuning to a Paul Walsh production, and until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, as always, remember to stay on track. Good night.